Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the son of Celestia and had Juubi? Huge shout out to hyotonuzumaki for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Walking down the road to the north post to Konoha was an 18-year-old youth wearing black Anbu-styled pants with red bandages around his ankles, black combat boots with 2 shuriken and kunai holsters seen on his person, as well as 2 belts holding several fuinjutsu scrolls around his waist. He had 2 black leather belts forming an X with another 2 wrapped around his waist, with a fox head acting as a buckle. He wore fingerless upper-length gloves with 2 black studded belts going around his arms. For his shirt he wore a black sleeveless turtleneck under a chunin flak jacket. On his back was large butcher knife-like sword without a hilt and bandages acting as a makeshift sheath, and a long katana with a bronze 4-pointed star and blue hilt resting on his left hip. On his back were the markings of the senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki, and Namikaze, as well as what appeared to be his dijutsu that was pitch black with 6 white rings and 9 tomo, with what appeared to be several elements circling it on the outside. The flawless pale ivory skin and aristocratic features with a slight feminine quality to it, with 6-pack abs and a toned chiseled body built for speed, agility, flexibility and power. On face were 6 sharp whisker marks that were under his steel gray eyes that had what appeared to be looking into the eye of a raging storm that demanded respect and power. His hair appeared to be flowing in a non-existent wind that was midnight black, with red streams swirling through it as it reached his lower back that he had in a ponytail. This was Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Uchiha Senju, son of a quad clan head of Konoha, war hero and heir of the Sage of 6 Paths, and second Juubi no Akami. Of course there was something the elemental nations knew of, was he was a celestial being. When his mother came to Konoha she wasn't who everyone knew her to be. After sealing her sister into the moon, she was unable to stand looking at it for another couple centuries as she left the land of Equestria with a double to do the work and take a vacation of sorts and came to the nations. While in her spectral form she saw the original Kushina dying as a child on the way to Konoha and merged themselves together, making them one and the same while living the life she had as Kushina Uzumaki Uchiha, and had soon promptly fell in love with his father Minato, who was aware of her real existence as an immortal princess of the sun. He was accepting and loved her nonetheless, but on the night he was conceived a man parading as his great-grandfather ripped the Kyuubi out of her as his father quickly sealed the 9 tails inside their newborn son Naruto. Being the celestial being she was, she could sense ill intent and knew Sarutobi, and Minato's teacher wouldn't let her raise her baby boy, let alone leave with him. With this knowledge she left everything she knew in her world, from the basics to the master techniques, even the dark aspects of magic that Queen Asakura was known for wielding, and the techniques that rightfully belonged to Naruto of all the clans he belonged to. Walking past the gate guards he made his way to the Hokage Tower to complete his 100th SSS rank mission to eliminate the remains of Oda and Orochimaru's forces, ignoring the Konoha 12 save for Hinata and Sasuke, who he gave a brief greeting towards as he walked through Konoha. At a young age, after sneaking into the Hokage's office, he found out that the man he once so affectionately called Juubi had planned everything for his student Light Tsunade, one of his loving fiancés, that he died while molding Naruto into someone who forgave everyone and would strive for everyone's acceptance while blocking off whatever bloodlines he had when he was driven into a rage. Running into the forest hiding his father's family home, he found a seal that contained the scroll his mother had left him and used his magical abilities to create a subspace where he could train for as long as he needed to master his bloodlines, but also his magical abilities and his flying capabilities. In the subspace he spent what seemed like a millennia in that space when it was only a few weeks in reality, and had fully mastered all of his bloodlines. While hiding behind the disguise of a moron, he hid away his true potential until the 4th war. Hokage's office. Walking into the Hokage's office, he saw the recently revived Toad Sage Jiraiya sitting behind the desk with the various Jounin and Toad elders as they turned with Naruto, tossing the mission scroll on the desk, saying mission accomplished Toad Sage. A random Jounin growled out, "Watch yourself, tool, when you speak to your betters." Giving a sideways glance the man backed away, seeing the storm in his eyes spin rapidly as they started to glow before turning his attention to the sage, saying, "I couldn't give a beep if he was my father, the walking corpse should be happy. I'm even calling him sage, a title he hardly deserves, when I could call him Toad Beeper, and next week's lunch. Now are we finished? I've been on a mission for 3 weeks in Kiri and I was this close to razing the pathetic village to the ground. Why I tolerate you foolish ninja is beyond me. And as for you and the rest of these slow decaying carcasses being my betters, I've cleaned dirt from my sandals that were better than you all," he said with a snort. Everyone frowned when Kakashi said, "Hey Naruto, why don't you come down to training ground 7 and train with me, Sakura and Sasuke, like old times?" Huffing he said, "Why would I train with a favoritism bastard and a bubblegum pink-haired whore? I'll ask again, are we done?" I don't have the patience to be around you people more than it is necessary, so. Can I go? The one-eyed Jounin glared at him and said, you haven't been at any team training sessions as of late, so it is mandatory to be there, Chunin. Snorting, Naruto focused his killer intent, making him drop to his knees. I may be a Chunin human, but I am far more powerful than even the first Juubi and Otsutsuki combined. I suggest you learn where you really stand in the world compared to me, because these jackets mean shit in reality. All they are a pair of symbols that mean nothing, just like these headbands. Turning to the sage, he said, I'll be taking my leave now, Toad, don't bother me for at least a week. Walking towards the door, he heard the Toad elders say, wait, Naruto boy, don't you want to continue your senjutsu training? Or maybe learn your father's final jutsu? Casting them a cold glance, making the room freeze over, he said, I've already mastered senjutsu to the point I don't need your assistance, and as for Minato's oration, well. Leaving his sentence half finished, he vanished in a flash of black, getting more frowns as Kakashi said, when is he going to get over himself and turn back to the old Naruto? Anko, who was sitting in the corner, snorted, getting everyone's attention, saying, please hot Aki, why would he change back? He saves our collective asses several times. During the Otosuna invasion, where he beat the One-Tails and kept Konoha from becoming an oversized litter box. He got us several treaties with different countries. And lastly, he wins the war we were losing badly, might I mention. Pushing off the wall, she continued, and how does everyone repay him? The people he considered friends turned on him, especially when he returned Konoha's poster child with a few bruises, and everyone nearly votes to have him executed or exiled if it weren't for the threat the Kazekage sensei made years ago. He doesn't receive an ounce of gratitude from anyone while being treated as a tool instead of a person after all he's done for us. Even his supposed godfather and surrogate brothers turn on him as suddenly everyone gained an I'm more superior to you attitude. He's become what everyone's labeled him since he was born, a cold-blooded killer whose only job is to kill and kill, nothing more, nothing less. Granted, he's a slightly more manageable being than the Kazekage was when he was a genin, but he's what everyone wanted. She said while the door closed behind her, to be honest, there's nothing here or anywhere in the elemental nations that's worth changing back to the boy who could smile at the darkest of moments anymore, not anything in a village full of people who would sooner shackle him down with a collar and spit on someone who gave us hope time and again when our fires burns their dimmest. When she walked out, they swore they could hear her final words, you wanted to break him, now you all have to deal with the results. The people in the room could only frown, knowing she was right, all their planning and manipulation, even with the knowledge of him being the son of Yondaime and suffered through the abuse, only to be treated as a monster. Now they have what they wanted, a cold demon doing his job. They couldn't get it both ways, having the smiling Naruto and the perfect weapon one had to give, and that resulted in losing the person who gave them hope, and now they have someone who wouldn't care if you lived or died, as you were either a partner or a liability to him, and that's all you would amount to in his eyes. Kakashi, who got up, said, why can't they understand it's for the benefit of the elemental nations? The scarred bald man said, walking out the door, what more can he do? He did what his father wanted, and that was to end the bloodshed and pain of the elemental nations. If he wanted to leave, there's nothing keeping him chained down, and if he chooses to leave, I won't stand in his way. After you all broke the kid, the only ones you can blame are yourselves, the clans who were friends with his parents, and Hiruzen for being fools trying to turn him into a loyal tool instead of doing what the Yondaime asked and Lady Mito asked. Kurenai, who looked at a random Jounin, asked, what did Senju-sama ask? Shikamaru said, with his two teammates Ino and Choji sitting next to him on the couch. First, it's Uzumaki-sama, like Naruto and Tsunade, at least remember his clan's history, since their clan was the one who helped make Konoha what it was. Naruto told me about her once when we were kids. She said that the only way for a Jinchuriki to overcome hate is to have that hate be replaced with love. I say she was on the right train of thought, seeing as this is the second time we've seen a broken soul. Looking at Shikamaru, Choji asked, what do you mean? Don't you remember Gaara and what he was like as a genin? He was hated and had assassination attempts on his life since he was born, and look at how that turned out for him. If it wasn't for Naruto, who none of us even acknowledged for saving us, as you all assumed the dead last couldn't possibly defeat a Biju, and thought it was Sasuke who did it, even though Inoichi proved it was Naruto with his plan's techniques. And everyone still went with the thought it was Sasuke. Even the person who trained him during the Chunin exams gave Sasuke the credit. Some sensei, by the way, only taught him one technique that he wasn't allowed to use, mind you, so what purpose was it to train him? No wonder you were the dead last during your time. You're useless then, and you're useless now, he said, getting a growl from the Toads and the Kage. And now Naruto, who we pretended to befriend and care for, put his life on the line because he believed he would finally be seen as Naruto Uzumaki the boy, he said, taking a drag off his cigarette before exhaling. Not Naruto the Jinchuriki or the fox brat or QB spawn everyone called him. Then when he finally does something that would change everyone's opinions, you all turn on him, and he realized he has no reason to gain people's acceptance, since to us we worth nothing to him, nor the bonds we've allegedly made with him, so yeah, Genma was right, the Sande Ami. My and everyone's clans and families deserves to be tortured in the Shinigami's stomach, as do all of you, myself included. With his piece, said he left the office with a shunshin as the others followed. In the castle chambers. Sai, a tall alabaster white-skinned beauty, sighed sitting in a throne with several others. She was wearing a long white dress that left a huge slit on her right side, letting her legs show, while the left side had what appeared to be a sun motif on it. The most noticeable thing about the women were that they either had horns and wings and tails or just horns, while this woman had multicolored hair in various hues of blue, pink and green. The woman next to her with her hair flowing freely that resembled the midnight sky, wearing a midnight blue version of the depressed woman, except the sun being represented as a crescent moon on top of what appeared to be a large ink splotch, as her eyes were light blue in color. She asked, "Sister, are you okay? It seems like every day on this month you get really depressed, and that is starting to worry me. Do I need to get the palace doctors?" Shaking her head slightly, she said, "No Luna, I'm alright, it's just remember the promise I made all of you to ensure the alliance between our kingdoms." They all nodded, while a woman wearing a beige pants with matching sleeveless vest with tan lines over a red velvet dress shirt with banana yellow gloves, her eyes were red on top of yellow sclera, as a fang jutted from her upper lip while sweeping some of her gray hair out of her face. This was Eris, leader of the Draconiquus and master of chaos. She said, "Of course my friend, but you never had a child, otherwise then everyone of political influence in Equestria would have known about him. Why decide to bring this up now?" Looking down, she said, "Because I do have a son. My little shadow fire, of course. In the world I had him and I also called him Naruto." The woman, whose skin resembled an evergreen color, wearing a deep green kimono top with a leaf green obi tightly wrapped around her waist and a cloth of the same deep green between her legs to preserve her modesty, while under all that she wore a leaf green leotard. Her eyes were bright green with slits for pupils, as a blue-green strand of hair hung in her face and a jagged horn on her head. This was Queen Chrysalis, leader of the changelings, who said, "Pardon me if I've heard you wrong, Celestia, but did you say another world?" She nodded. "Yes, it was another couple centuries after I sealed Luna away into the moon that I was unable to bear looking at her prison. I created a spell that would let me traverse worlds, as I created a double to handle my royal duties while I went on vacation. You could say it would have been some years in that world, but it was centuries here when Twilight, my student, had just been born." Vacation? The last woman sitting on a throne asked. She was coal black with her hair being slightly darker. Her eyes were red on top of green sclera with what appeared to be a purple smoke coming off them. She wore what you would see on a knight, steel gray armor plating that melded to her chest and pants with armored leg guards, with her horn being black with a red tip. Yes, although I really couldn't consider it as such. The world I went in wasn't that advanced technologically like our own. And there the ponies or people there couldn't use magic or fly, she started. Wait, if they weren't ponies and they couldn't use magic or fly, what could they do? The gray-haired woman asked, getting a snort from the armor-wearing ruler. If you gave her the chance to explain, Eris, you'd find out. "Thank you," she said, getting a raspberry in return. "Thank you, Ascura. As I was saying, they didn't use magic like us. In fact, to them it was a myth, as they used what was known as chakra, an energy that existed in all living things, even the plants and animals. Chakra is the combination of the physical strength and the spirit of the user. In translation, their knowledge," she explained, getting raised eyebrows. "The combination of the physical and spiritual. It doesn't sound any different than magic, in all honesty," Luna said, getting a nod. "You're correct, dear sister. In fact, they are the same, only our magic is more potent and concentrated. You see, when I arrived in that world I was in a corporeal form when I happened upon a young woman who was close to dying. Sensing me, she begged me to help her, so I did what I could and melded ourselves together. It justified both our desires. I would get away from my duties for a while, and she would continue to live," she said, sitting back in her throne. "When I arrived to the village she was being sent to, I was assigned to become the container of a powerful demon that could alter landscapes with a swipe of one of its 9 massive tails. To be honest, it would take both me and Luna, as well as the elements of harmony, just to defeat it," she said, getting wide eyes from everyone, knowing Celestia and Luna alone were already powerful, but for a creature to require both of them and the elements was something they simply couldn't imagine. "For the time being I was happy I didn't have people bowing to me as I walked through the streets or getting special treatment. I lived a simple life when I met someone who I thought I loved until a horrible day arrived," she said with a growl, getting weird looks. "I became pregnant with my first and only foal, who on their world we gave him both my human body's names and his father's names, calling him Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Senju Uchiha, while I called him Shadow Fire. The first and only time I physically held him when a masked man parading around with her grandfather's name ripped the 9 tails out of me and used it to cause mass destruction in the village." A tear escaped her eye. I intended to seal the nine tails away inside me again, but Minato, the current leader at the time, and my ex-husband chose to seal it away inside our son. He expected the village to respect his wish to see our son as a hero for keeping the creature from killing them at bay, she said with a cold laugh, unnerving those listening, unused to hearing the usually kind and maternal goddess be so dark. I told him he was a fool for having such blind faith in such fickle beings who only care about power, and told him if he continued to proceed, he would spit on not only me and Naruto, but his own beliefs of family before anything. He simply grabbed Naruto and sealed it inside him by sacrificing his life to a god of death to perform the sealing, thus creating a weapon for the village, she said, creating a photo of her with red hair holding her little boy. That still doesn't explain why you left him there, Asakura pointed out, getting a tired sigh showing her exhaustion. I wanted to bring him with me, but I wasn't aware until the last minute that while I was being given an IV, the doctor, under the command of the last leader, placed a fast-acting poison inside it. When I had already reached him, my body died, as I could only do what I was capable at the time, and that was to create a collection of not only all the literature and spells in Equestria, including dark magic and runes, but his father's techniques and all the techniques and fighting styles I secretly stole in the world and left it in a mark I placed on him before I left. Included in the collection was the spell I used to get there that would bring him and anyone else with him back. I've been waiting for him to come home for 18 years now, she said, looking at the photo with a smile, before she willed it away in a flash. Not wanting to hurt her sister, Luna said, Tia, how do you know he can even use magic? I mean, you did have him with someone who can't. There is the chance he can't use it either, you know, like a Pegasi and unicorn. The child is going to be one of the two species. Shaking her head, smiling, she said, no, when I placed the seal holding everything, I used a spell that would amplify my DNA, making him a full-blooded alicorn. While retaining his blood, I almost returned to that wretched place before. When he placed the nine tails in my son, I put a fraction of my soul inside it to speak with him at least once. When the fragment did its job, I was shown his memories and saw the life he had to live as a child, being treated like a monster because of Minato and that accursed old ape Sarutobi. Wait, that was a year ago. You were so angry. Equestria faced an extreme heat wave for a week before it stopped, Luna said, remembering that year. It was so hot everyone was forced to wearing their swimwear just because all their clothing was too thick to wear in the normally cool August weather. She nodded with a bit of a blush, as she was known as the calmer and rational of the two. She said, yes, after learning of his life, I hoped he would come home to where he rightfully belongs. Asakura, after hearing her response, stared with a blank expression till she said, Celestia, you do know that he is the only male alicorn in existence. Since your father Cosmos, you know he's going to need a lot of wives, and I'm not trying to sound weird or anything, but how are you going to be in his life when he and if he comes back? Blushing, she said, it would depend. If that's where everything leads to, I wouldn't oppose, just so long as I can be a part of my son's life. The village stole the one thing I desired in my life, as to raise my son. This is one guilty pleasure I would fight for. And if the magical energy rolling off him when my soul fragment returned to me is anything, he's going to need a number of wives to populate the families he's from. Nodding, they relented as Eris asked, but dear Celestia, what makes you so sure this Shadow Fire or Naruto, whichever name he answers to, will come this year? She shrugged with a smile, looking out the stained glass window, saying mysteriously, call it mother's intuition. Namikaze Estate. Ugh, ignorant ninja, Naruto said, walking into his father's home. How he loathed the man for making his life the hell it was, but the difference was he was alive and his father was dead, which brought a slight smile tugging at his lips before he sat on the couch. Feeling a pair of arms wrap around his waist, he heard a soft voice tickle his ears, don't let those fools bother you, Inukoi. Their lifespans are the equivalent of flies, short and unfulfilling. Another two pairs of arms wrapped around his waist, saying, she's right, Narukoi, and besides, you've made a breakthrough on the seal that will let us and the others leave these accursed lands and start a happy life with nothing being able to stop us. Reclining, he looked up to see three of his many fiancées, Tsunade Senju and Tamari Uzumaki and Shizune Kato, as he gave them loving smiles, something only those who hold a special part in his heart see. When Tamari found out her own brother, who was once a psychopath before Naruto set him straight, agreed to have the man of her dreams turned into the nation's pet, she disowned him and Kankuro as her brothers and resigned as a Suna ninja. When they asked why she did this, she said, I can't stand to share the same name as people who turned on the one who fixed our family and gave Gaara his sanity and still have the nerve to call the man I love brother after choosing to turn him into a glorified pet for the world without even so much as a thank you for all he's done. Without another word, she packed everything of importance and left for Konoha and stayed with Naruto as a leaf Kunoichi and was marked by Naruto a month after the war. As for Tsunade, the two had secretly been speaking with one another since Naruto was in his second year of the academy through a special communication scroll that he used to speak to her by burning it, as it would transport said scroll to another person or location. Over the years the two grew closer as he grew older until the two met agreeing to pretend they didn't get along with Uraya around, but when he wasn't and with Shizune sleeping in another room at the hotel, the young Biju used his and Kurama's yokai, making her younger, as he marked her as his and his alone, while Shizune joined a little later, after finding out a date she went on had gone south because the guy just wanted to brag about dating the student of the legendary Slug Princess. When he had found out he hunted the guy down and beat that guy's ass till he was hospitalized permanently, and the best part of it all was that he did it in a disguise so he wouldn't get in trouble. Shizune was so touched by the fact he went out of his way to protect her heart and even more touched that Naruto offered to take her on a date to at least get over the pain she experienced. To be honest, she thought he was just going to take her to that ramen stand he always talked about, but instead she was surprised when he acted like a total gentleman while knowing he only went to Ichiraku's. Instead he made an impressive dinner and took her to the top of the Hokage monument during the night as they watched the lights in Konoha paint an image that she would never forget and admitted she wouldn't mind dating again and eventually became his mate during their 8th date. Agreeing, he told them and his other fiancés the truth about his heritage that threw them all for a loop. Not only was he the heir of several clans, but he was an immortal being with an energy more potent and concentrated than chakra. When he showed them his true training ground where he practiced everything else, they were amazed by his real appearance and admittedly turned on by the energy he gave off and were excited to learn when he marked them. They became what they were most aligned to. Both Tsunade and Shizune became unicorns and Tamari became a Pegasus as his other mates became either earth ponies as they were called or one of the other species. Training them master their abilities to the best of their abilities and learned they were still capable of using their chakra when they agreed when he figured out how to leave the nations, as he understood that when you leave your chakra would be converted into mana and only those turned into unicorns are capable of using their energy. Although if they didn't either get marked or have a special seal, your chakra would never return when you go between worlds, so unlike Naruto and his girls, who could use both in either world, outsiders were in for some tough times due to their chakra changing. Hearing the door open, they all turned to see Anko, Hinata and what appeared to be a more feminine version of Sasuke. When she released her gain jutsu, she revealed herself to be slightly shorter than him by a head as he stood at a solid 6'4", making her come just below his chin. She wore her Anbu-styled pants with open-toed sandals and her wide-open kimono top with bandages wrapped around her chest, along with her chikudo on her hip. Her skin was flawless as her midnight blue hair reached her lower back with her bangs framing her heart-shaped face, with her narrow eyes showing love to the man sitting on the couch. The truth of the matter was there was never a Sasuke, as when the Uchiha clan massacre happened, Naruto was the first person to ever associate with her without acting out of pity or at the possibility of getting something out of it in return. They became close friends, although to everyone else they were rivals who hated each other. Although Naruto never knew Sasuke was actually Satsuki during the wave mission when he walked in on her changing her chest bindings. Taking him to the forest, she practically begged him not to tell anyone until he revealed his secret, making things. Even as they both admitted they secretly loved each other, they tried to spend as much time as possible together when they weren't around and strengthened their relationship when Naruto brought her back and removed that mark placed on her by Orochimaru, although the council nearly had him exiled because he brought her back with a few bruises. Thankfully for him, Tsunade, Satsuki and Hinata stood up for him, saying, "How can you punish a ninja for performing his duty? And if he is to be held accountable, then so would Neji, Choji, Shikamaru, Kiba and Lee, as they would need a similar punishment since they too held a part in the mission." The Shinobi Council agreed with their point as their mission was to retrieve Satsuki by any means, so he had to fight as did the others. If he was going to be exiled, so should the others by that train of thought. That stopped the civilian and shinobi councils, but the Jounin and shinobi, even the Konoha genin besides Hinata, who finally got the nerve to admit her feelings for him as he and the girls accepted her into their happy family without anyone's knowledge, were angry for bringing her back with a few injuries, while ignoring Tsunade's words of him being run through with two Chidoris, which she apologized for repeatedly until he silenced her with a firm kiss when they were alone, as he brought her out of her self-induced tirade for harming him. Sitting on his lap on the couch, Satsuki said, "So when are we leaving this place? I don't think I can stand dealing with Hot Aki and his brown-nosing or Sakura and her annoying fangirl attitude, or the fact that she keeps trying to lay her hands on you." Kissing her cheek, he said, "We'll leave during this week since I gave the old toad a warning not to bother me during my week off. All of you have everything of importance on hand, right?" They nodded, showing the seals on their arms, getting a smile from him as he went still before growling in annoyance. It seems some just don't take no for an answer. Frowning at the loss of their Naru time, Hinata asked who had changed her clothing to a pair of shorts with her jacket wide open and a fishnet top. Naru-kun, who is it at the gate? Apparently hot Aki and Haruno, he said, letting Satsuki get off his lap with a pout before he kissed her and grabbed his sword after he had stripped his clothing to a pair of sweatpants, revealing his chiseled chest and 8-pack abs with a fist-sized scar over his heart that he proudly wore as a battle scar that he called his badge of honor. 8 of the Namikaze estate. Where the hell is that baka? He should be out here when we demand him to be out here. The recently promoted Jounin Sakura shouted in outrage only to hear a cold voice come from behind her. You know, Waruno, when you enter someone else's land it's impolite to demand something, and I'm already in a rather piss-poor mood, so I would suggest you watch what you say before I toss you clear across Konoha to the seas. Yuki no Kuni with your arms bound and your chakra sealed, the voice said, making her jump in fright, seeing him standing on a tree branch with cold eyes as the hurricane in them spun slowly. Kakashi, trying to defuse the situation, said, Mama Naruto, no need to be so hostile, we just want to see how our old teammate is doing. Casting hot Aki a bored look, he said, I was resting from my 3-week-long mission before you, and your bubblegum pet decided to bother me when I made it painfully clear I would like to be left alone, so what do you want? Now Naruto, we just wanted to see if you knew where Sasuke was and if you too cared to join Sakura, Sai and Tenzo for some training. Kakashi said with his annoying eye smile, getting a scowl from Naruto. I already made myself pretty clear, I don't want anything to do with you or your team. And as for Sasuke, he's inside as we had just finished training and decided to relax since he was tired of people butting into his business every day he goes out alone, Naruto said, bored of their company when Sakura had hearts in her eyes and tried to force her way into the compound. The grin spread on Naruto's face, saying, I wouldn't do that if I were you. But his warning was too late, as when she walked to the gate she got launched away and into a tree. I don't like intruders, so I modified the seal to push unknown chakra signatures. I haven't keyed into the matrix away from the gate, although I guess I could have told you sooner. Oh well. Baka let me in to see Sasuke-kun, she said, stomping towards Naruto as she brought her fist down, only to receive the large butcher knife-like sword poised at her throat. You're already on thin ice as you attempted to enter someone else's home without their consent, and also assault on a fellow ninja would have been added to your list, but I wouldn't have taken it to the council. But mount your head on my wall. I suggest you remember Haruno, the Uzumaki that was kind towards everyone, is dead. Now you and Hot Aki have overstayed your rather short and unwanted welcome, he said, walking through the gate, saying. I suggest you leave before I have my summons deal with you, he said as the gates and door closed behind him. Let's go, Sakura, I can see we aren't welcome here, Kakashi said, picking up his student. As they left, a thought came to Kakashi. Why would he have Jiraiya-sama's toads attack us? She was going to argue until Kakashi shot her a glare, making her relent as they walked away, as Kakashi thought, I'm going to have to speak with Hokage-sama about this. Back inside. What did they want, Naruto-kun? Satsuki asked, looking at him as the others were just as curious, getting a groan. They wanted to train with me and Sasuke. And Sakura tried to force her way into the estate. That is until my adjusted seal repels anyone not keyed into the gate, he said, sitting on the couch before Satsuki claimed his lips with a kiss as she straddled his hips. Aw, come on Satsuki, share our mate would you, Hinata complained, getting nods from the other women while getting the bird from the Uchiha heiress. Yeah, you heard the girl, share our man Satsuki, Anko said before an ethereal tail rose matching his hair rose, making them stop. Girls, what did I tell you? He said, getting a unified answer. You always have enough time for all of us, so there is no need to fight, they said, getting a nod and a small smile. Exactly, now let's head to bed so we can prepare to leave, he said as they nodded, dragging him up the stairs, getting an amused chuckle from him as he suddenly looked to the right, seeing a small puff of smoke, making him smirk. Later in the week. How's the seal going, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, sitting next to him as they all gathered at the Valley of the End as he started inscribing a seal into both sides of the waterfall, as they all had some decent-sized scrolls on their backs. Almost finished, girls, just a couple of adjustments and we can kiss this accursed world goodbye, he said when he heard. And where exactly do you think you're going, Naruto boy? They heard as they turned their attention to the voice to see the remainder of the Konoha 12 and the Jounin and Jiraiya behind them. Well, if it isn't the trash, if you're wondering, we're leaving this hellhole, thank you, Naruto said as he formed a clone to continue working on the seals. We didn't give you permission to leave, dope. Kiba snarled, seeing Hinata wrap her arms around Naruto's waist. I didn't think I needed a couple of apes' permission to leave. Besides, where we're heading you won't be able to do anything anyway, so this is where we say our goodbyes, he said, blocking a Jaiken strike from Niji before pushing him back. You really are stupid enough to think a simple palm would hurt me? Hinata has a harder hit than you, he said when his clone announced. Boss, the gate's open, hurry and go. It said before dispelling as they all smiled. Well, all I would say, this had been fun, but you know I was never a good liar, he said as they all jumped through a swirling vortex as it closed. Damn it. We lost our weapon, a shinobi said, getting a snort from another random Jounin. You forgetful Hokage-sama is a seal master, he should be able to recreate whatever the demon used to leave and his horse will not be free for too long, he said, as they all watched Jiraiya look over the carved seals to see they had become worn after the use. What type of seal is this? It looks like a summoning seal with a mix of Minato's Horatian seal. Did he actual traverse worlds? He thought, taking it to memory before he got up. Everyone, we're heading back. The seal has become worn, so going after them will take time. For now we go about our business with nobody spreading word of this to anyone. Jiraiya said, getting a salute from everyone as they all left the area. Jiraiya boy, where is it you think Minato's boy went? Ma asked, getting a shake of the head, saying. I don't know, but we're going to get him back and turn him into a toad statue and make sure he returns to the old Naruto so he can protect the Leaf Village and put him into the breeding program, he said as they nodded, joining his shinobi back to Konoha. In the center of a deep dark forest. A tall gray-coated woman with black markings heard as she turned from her boiling pot, wearing a black and white tube top and a long black skirt with a slit on the side, showing her long legs with a sun motif on her hip, matching the one on her arms, as her white and black hair reached her lower back, with the right side being shaved close to the scalp. It seems the Everfree will no longer be the same to me, she said with a chuckle, grabbing her walking stick as she walked out of her hut following the sound of the yelling. Note, I won't always make her rhyme, because I'm not skilled at rhyming, so when I come up with one I'll have her do it, but not all the time. Further out in the forest. Ugh, Shadow Fire-kun, a forest green woman with blonde mane tied in two pigtails matching her tail, said as she got up, showing her hazel eyes with a green flame-like aura, with two hands crossing as a marking on her shoulder, wearing her usual clothing. Yeah, he said, groaning, showing his ethereal mane solidify into a black mess with red swirls in it, with some of his hair just sweeping across his eyes, with his horn parting it getting up as he stretched his midnight black wings, extended as the color of his wings matched his coat, with a mark on the back of his shirt was seen on both shoulders, with his 10 wolf-like tails sweeping across the ground. As he and the girls took of their sandals, seeing as they've been replaced with hooves, which was something they found to be highly uncomfortable. We are never taking that way of transportation again, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, standing as her coat was a lavender color as her Hyuga clan mark surrounded by a blue-flamed lion with a rabbit in front of the mark and her wings tucked firmly on her back as her matching midnight blue mane and tail flowed in the soft breeze. I might have to agree, Naruto-kun, that was not an experience I want to experience again, Satsuki said, straightening up as she showed she had a coal gray coat with midnight blue tail and mane, with the Uchiha fan made of lightning on her shoulder with a storm cloud above it. Are you two nuts? That was a hell of a ride, Wolfie, can we take a second ride? Anko said, jumping to her feet hooves as she showed her beige coat with her purple mane in its pineapple hairstyle and tail, with her mark being a snake with a sword in its mouth. The sand brown wing smacked her in the back of the head as she turned to see Tamari's sand brown coat with her blonde mane still done in 4 pigtails and tail, with her mark being a tornado made from sand, saying, I think we all would prefer to keep what we ate in our stomachs, thank you very much. I agree with Tamari-chan, Shizune said as they turned to see she had a sea green coat with short dark oak brown mane and tail, with a mark on her shoulder was a plus made from green flames. It seems I have some new ponies in my urban home, they heard, making them jump, drawing what weapons they had on hand to see a woman with a grey coat with strange markings, wearing a black and white strip tube top with a long black skirt, as her mane was long with the side of her hair cut close to the scalp. No need to fear, my pony friends, I did not mean to offend. I am Zakora, the medicine mare in the Everfree Forest, she said with a kind smile, making them relax, seeing as she meant no harm, but saw her blush while subtly looking at Naruto, who was wearing what he always wore in Konoha, except like him the others forsake their headbands and jackets. As the girls quirked an eyebrow, they agreed to plan and to see when they spent more time in Equestria that they would see if the girls here would care to join their happy family. Well, Zakora-chan, it's nice to meet you. I'm Shadow Fire, or you can call me Naruto, he said, extending his hand, which she took in a firm grip before tilting her head to the side. Fish cake? She said, seeing him vanish to the other side of the clearing with a depressed aura over his head, mumbling to himself while drawing figure eights in the ground. I'm not a fish cake, I'm a maelstrom bucket, they heard him mutter, getting a soft laughs from the others, causing Zakora to raise an eyebrow. Is he okay? I am curious for what made him be that way. She asked, getting a nod from Anko, who was wearing low-rise jeans with a black muscle shirt and her trench coat. Yeah, Naruto-kun is fine, it's just his mom meant for his name to mean the secondary meaning as in maelstrom, but everyone always jumped to the first meaning as a topping in raiment, she said, gesturing towards Naruto, who was still depressed. Naruto-kun, don't you think you should get up? We gotta find out where in Equestria we are and plan from there, Hinata said, wearing her usual clothing, complete with the lavender jacket minus the sleeves. She is right, Naruto-kun, besides a local found us, so Zakora might know where to go, Tamari said, wearing her old Tsunejounin uniform. Although the herbs here seem rather unique, just imagine the medicine we could make with these once we find out what they are and their effects, Tsunade said, with Shizune nodding as they wore their usual clothing. If you wish to know where you are, I'd be more than happy to help you go far, Sakura said as she walked deeper into the forest, quickly being followed by Naruto and the others as they made their way into her home. Sakura's hut. I gotta say, Sakura-chan, this is a nice place you got here. I love the natural feel to it, Naruto said, looking around as they sat at a table while Sakura boiled some water in a pot. Why, thank you. When I first arrived here I built this hut with my own two hands. I'm proud of what it has become, she said with a warm smile which they returned and Naruto could appreciate, as when he was little before he found his father's home, he made his own little home in the forest outside Konoha, so of course she would have pride in her home. Handing them all a drink, saying it is a special herbal blend from my old land. I must ask Naruto, why do I feel something coming from you other than your mana? In fact it's coming from all of you, but yours is stronger. And why did you fall from a vortex in the sky? Taking a sip he said, well, Sakura-chan, in my own order I was born in another world, although I was born in Alicorn, and after some events that happened in that world, me and my mates decided we've done enough for them and left. Mates? She inquired, looking at them as they pulled the collars of their shirts down, showing a wolf's head on their collars. Where we're from, he's the heir of several clans, people with special abilities that are only known by them, so he needs several wives to ensure those abilities continue, even though he is now an immortal and us by him marking us, Tsunade explained, getting an understanding yet semi-hopeful expression which the girls caught. Letting him continue he said, as for why you feel something different about me ignoring my mana, as an Alicorn in the world we were in there was a war waging, and to make a long story short, I sealed an ancient demon inside myself like my ancestor through my father's blood, did before me. What I didn't expect was for my own energy absorbed it, making me take its place. So you have that world's energy, Yaokai and mana, but that doesn't explain why the air seems so tranquil around you? She asked, getting a nod. During my time there I trained in using the natural energy in the world, an art called Senjutsu, making me stronger and more resilient to attacks, while also making me faster. It's difficult but worthwhile, he explained, getting an intrigued nod. I would take it you're looking for some pony? Sakura asked, getting a nod from them all. Yes, I was wondering if you knew where Canterlot is and if we're anywhere nearby, or if not how long it would take to get there. He asked, seeing her tilt her head to the side before snapping her fingers as she got up and went into another room. She seems real nice, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked, getting a nod from the immortal. Yeah, she seems real nice. I just hope the rest of the locals here are just as hospitable as her, he said, as the others agreed when she returned with a large parchment. I'm afraid to say Canterlot is a day away by train, but the closest town is Ponyville, where everything has a welcoming feel, she said, pointing to the map as the capital of Canterlot, while the Everfree Forest was just a quick walk away from Ponyville. I see, that is a shame, especially when we don't have any bits for transportation. Oh well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, thanks anyway, Sakura, Naruto said, getting a smile in return which he found quite attractive on her. It's no trouble at all, but who is it you are searching for? Maybe I have heard of her before. She rhymed. You see, some years ago in my world as time flowed differently, which would be a few millennia, here she came and met my dad and had me due to some events I rather not speak of till a later time. Me and the girls left. She wrote me a note that I found along with some spells to learn, one of which was the spell to get here. He started, getting a nod, allowing him to continue. I was hoping that we landed near Canterlot because she lives there, or at least she still does, because time flows differently. For all I know she could be gone, he said, getting a hand on his shoulder, making him see it was Sakura offering him a smile. No need to fret, as I feel your love survives even in death. Now who is this mare of which you speak so fondly, so I may help you reach your family? She asked, seeing him raise his head. I'm looking for Celestia, or as she went in my world, Kushina. Do you know if she's still around or not? He asked, getting a smile from the mare before running back into the room and back with a picture of several girls, including a woman with Naruto's flowing hair, except it was an array of blue, green, pink and yellow wearing her dress. The mare you seek is very well, but her emotional health is a different tale, she said, pointing to the older multicolor-haired woman. Your mom is the princess of the equestrian, Naruto-kun, Tamari said with wide eyes, getting a nod from them. A prince of the Whirlpool Nation, possible heir for the throne, reincarnation of the Rikido Sennin, and the nickname Juubi no Okami. Your life just grows more and more interesting, she said good-naturedly, which they laughed at his blank expression. I must agree, the world has a way with playing with you, my little pony, she said, getting a snort. Stick around, Sakura, my dear, the world has been messing with me since I was old enough to walk, and thanks, Sakura, you don't know how much this means to me, he said with a smile which she returned with a blush when he hugged her before separating. She shook her head, saying, there is no need to thank me, I was simply doing what I thought was right and reunited a family. Do you know when you will go? They shrugged as he said, I don't know, none of us have any bits, and we don't know where the train station is, so we will be spending some time in the area getting familiar with the locals. Nodding, she said, then we will be seeing each other more often than I originally thought as I go into Ponyville to buy groceries and supplies for my potions and brews. They smiled as Tsunade said, then whenever you're in the area you should come by and visit, it would be great to know some pony around here. Smiling she said, I would like that. The only ponies to visit is the sweetest little filly named Applebloom and her friends in the CMC. The question mark appeared over all their heads as they said in stereo CMC. She nodded. The CMC, or as the acronym stands for the Cutie Mark Crusaders, they don't have their cutie mark, so they do various tasks to find their special talents. Sounds like they have some serious dedication for them to be so young. I like that, Naruto said as the others nodded. If it's worth earning, it's worth its weight in effort, sweat, frustration and tears, Anko said, getting a nod from the others. Sagely words from a mare so young, Sakura admitted, getting a good-natured laugh from Hinata. I guess miracles do happen, huh? She said with a soft giggle as she ignored the mock glare sent her way by the snake mistress. As they all got up to leave, she said after wishing them well, if you ever need something do stop by at any time and feel free to keep that map. We will thank you, Sakura-chan. Naruto said, walking away as they waved her off, making her smile. Naruto-kun, you just made life here much more interesting, she thought before adding more wood to her fire as she went back to her pot. Outside the everfree forest. Well, she was nice, huh? Satsuki said, getting a nod from the others. And very helpful. I think I could get used to this place and not have to worry about power-hungry bastards and manipulators walking without toes is something I'll have to get used to, though, he said as they nodded. Wait, this is your biological form, shouldn't we be complaining about this? Hinata stated, getting a shrug. Granted, but I never stayed in this form for extended periods of time, and I only used this form while training to test if I still retained my chakra and if it was possible to use it as a pony. Judging from our chat with Sakura, I sense that they all have chakra, it just seems that they use it in different ways, he said, getting raised eyebrows. How so, Wolfie? Anko said, with the others just as curious as Satsuki. Hinata, Temari and Naruto flew while the others walked. Well, unicorns and alicorns are the only species of using this mana externally, such as things like levitating objects and such. Pegasus uses it in their wings to fly. While earth ponies use it in their strength, making them stronger than any of the 3 races of pony, he explained from reading the books his mom left along with the magic training and different spells of types. What about the alicorns? Hinata asked, flying next to Naruto. Alicorns are the perfect blend of Pegasus, unicorn and earth pony. We have the unicorn's expertise in magic. The Pegasi have a knack for flying. And the earth pony's strength, he continued as they made their expedition towards Ponyville when he was pulled down with his face cupped in Anko's hands. So you're saying I'm stronger now? Beep ya. She said, throwing him in the air as he caught himself and hovered in front of her with a blank expression, causing her to chuckle sheepishly. Yes, quite stronger, so much stronger in fact that with the fact you're now part demon and your chakra and natural strength from training, you're more powerful than Guy without his weights, and with all 8 gates going now. I don't know about you, but I smell something sweet calling me, so I'm going to follow it, he said, drifting through the gates of Ponyville as the others' stomachs rumbled, making them chase after them. Sugar Cube Corner. Hi. Was the first thing they heard, causing Anko to jump seeing as she appeared right behind her, making them all chuckle before she got in everyone's face. Her coat was a hot pink as she wore a pair of blue jean shorts with a mark of 3 balloons on her hip, matching the one on her shoulder, and wore a light pink t-shirt with the same 3 balloon logo on the left breast. As the balloons had smiles, her eyes were light blue, while her hair and tail was a magenta color, both of which were a mess. Hi, my name's Pinkie Pie and you all must be new here. I know because I know every pony in Ponyville. Gasp. Wait, if you're new then that means you don't have many friends, and that must be really bad, but don't worry, I'll be your friend and help you make more. I know I'll throw you all a welcome to Ponyville party anyways. What can I get you? She said in one breath, making them go wide-eyed. Well, Pinkie Pie, it's nice to meet you. I'm Shadowfire, but you can call me Naruto, he said with a smile which she returned, shaking his hand as she blushed. It's nice to meet you, Fishcake. She said, making him face fault with waterfall tears as he muttered, why does everyone jump to the first definition? Looking at him as she knelt in front of him, poking his head, she asked, is he okay? I mean, I'm known as the random pony, but I don't think I've seen any pony just go from smile to that. They shook their heads as Hinata said, I'm Hinata, and yes, Shadowfire is okay, it's just his name. Naruto is a 2-term word, one being the one everyone assumes, instead of its actual meaning of maelstrom. It's kind of a running joke for him. She nodded and said, oh well, welcome to Sugar Cube Corner, and I'm your server, Pinkie Pie, party planner, pony extraordinaire. If there is something party worthy you can expect me to throw it. See anything you would like? Looking through the displays, Hinata said, we actually don't have any bits, since we don't have any jobs. We spent it all traveling here when we ran into a mare named Sakura. Seeing the look on their face, she got in close before nodding with a smile, then let me get whatever you all want as a welcome to Ponyville. They looked at each other as Tsunade said, please, we couldn't take advantage of your kindness. She shook her head. I insist, besides your friends haven't stopped drooling over the displays, plus this way I get the chance to know my new friends and give you a tour around Ponyville. Nodding she relented saying then thank you very much Pinkie Pie. I'm Tsunade, and I'll have a slice of that German chocolate cake. Nice to meet you Pinkie Pie I'm Shizune, and I'll have some apple fritters they look delicious she said, getting a happy nod. I know my friend Applejack and her family own the farm that grows the apples. And boy are their apples juicy we can stop over there first after you all eat she said, taking everyone else's orders. Naruto got what Tsunade ordered, Hinata and Temari got cinnamon rolls, and Anko albeit disappointed they didn't know about Dango, got a slice of fresh apple pie, which after the first bite they cleaned through their food real quick. Man Pinkie Pie that is by far the most delicious thing I've ever tasted you said you make all these yourself. Temari asked getting a nod from the excitable mare. Yup. Well there's also Mr. N although they're on their second honeymoon after being married for 10-something years and having their twin she said, noticing Naruto's wings and horn. You're an alicorn? She exclaimed as Naruto nodded with a raised eyebrow. Yeah you act like alicorns are some dying breed he said with a shrug as she nodded. That's about right actually. Excluding you there are only 4 alicorns with my friend Twilight, Princess Celestia, Princess Luna and Princess Mia Morcandenza, but she prefers Cadence she's Twilight's sister-in-law, but she's the ruler of the Crystal Empire with Twilight's brother Shining Armor as her head guard and husband she explained, getting a nod. So care to lead on with the tour Pinkie? I'm interested in seeing what this place is like it's got a real homey feel to it, Naruto said getting a nod as she grabbed his wrist and dragged him out the shop in a blur. And here I thought finding girls who would join our little family would take a while Tsunade said running after them. It could be his charm or his kind personality. Hinata offered as they meet up with Pinkie and Naruto as they nodded. Yeah but how many more girls are going to be interested in him? I mean there's got to be some limit. Anko said getting a shrug. All the women here could be into him, but you know with his stamina, he could go with every girl and keep going, Temari said growing wet as they remembered the time they were marked. Ponyville Sweet Apple Acres. Welcome to Sweet Apple Acres the apple farm that's been in Ponyville since the founding Pinkie Pie said with a smile as they walked up to see a large apple farm with apple trees that went on for miles. The HWACK they heard as they heard the sound come from a girl slightly shorter than Naruto with an orange coat with freckles wearing denim shorts and chaps with a red plaid shirt with a tight as it came under her chest with her blonde mane done in a ponytail just like her tail on her shoulder and on the back pockets of her shorts were 3 apples as her cutie mark completing her image was a Stetson on her head. Running towards her Pinkie said hey AJ you won't believe what's going on. Turning she saw her excitable friend saying with her southern accent well howdy Pinkie Pie, I didn't expect you in these here parts and what's this that you say I can't believe what's going on. Pointing to the large group she said, we've got some new ponies in Ponyville so I decided to give them the grand tour. That's Naruto, Hinata, Tsunade, Shizune, Anko, Temari and Satsuki. They all waved at her which she returned with a smile while her sight lingered on Naruto for a few moments longer as Pinkie Pie snapped her out of her daze and everyone this is the most honest and trustworthy pony you'll ever know Applejack, but I and our friends call her AJ. Howdy all welcome to Ponyville, I hope you all enjoy yourselves here she said tilting her hat while subtly checking Naruto out which the girls noticed and grinned. Pinkie tells me that your family has been selling apples here since the founding of Ponyville. Tsunade asked getting a nod patting the trunk of a tree. Yup we apples have lived on this orchard since the beginning, back when Granny Smith was a little filly and her mother before her and her mother before her. In fact our family is spread all over Equestria selling our apples in various iders she said with a proud smile. Whistling Anko said wow, but there has to be over 1,000 trees how many people work here to get all them down. Shrugging she said well it depends sometimes we got family coming over when they visit and help us out other times Pinkie Pie and the others lend a hoof, but it's mostly me, my brother Big Mac and our little sister Applebloom. I was wondering if you'd come with us while I show them around and introduce them to the others, Pinkie Pie asked watching the farm girl think it over before nodding. Yeah sure I done my share of the work and Applebloom is with her friend so I reckon I could join you but I might believe going to Rarity last would be best, she suggested getting raised eyebrows from the others. Why go to this Rarity last? Shizune asked as the 2 friends looked at each other before Pinkie Pie said. Well you see Rarity is a bit of a fashionista and one for dramatics and when she sees Naruto's tail and mane in such poor care she'll flip she said, making him look at his tail and mane, seeing that he had split ends and knots. And all of your clothing looks like you'll come from a war, so do expect her to nitpick at it because she won't let you leave until she makes you all some new clothes, Applejack said pulling on the sleeve of Hinata's jacket, seeing the rips and tears in everyone's clothing. Naruto looking at his clothes nodded so ladies where to next on this wonderful tour. We can head down to Fluttershy's cottage, it's not that far from here, then we can go to Twilight's Rainbow Dash is usually flying around, so she'll pop up sooner or later, Pinkie Pie said, as they all agreed after Applejack told her granny she was heading out. Fluttershy's cottage. Nice place she's got here, far from the town, and quiet too, Naruto said as the others agreed, seeing all the animals skitter around the small cottage. Yeah, Fluttershy's well shy, she doesn't really do loud or excitability too well, she has her moments, but she prefers to be soft-spoken over noticeable, so do keep patience with her, okay? Pinkie Pie said as they raised an eyebrow. Just how shy could she possibly be? They all thought when Pinkie Pie started knocking on the door as it creaked open. Hello? They heard a soft voice come through the crack as a green blue eye peered through the doorway. Hey Fluttershy, we've got some new friends here in Ponyville, so we decided to show them around and have them make some friends, Pinkie said, standing up close to the door as she looked at the group with an eep when she made eye contact with Naruto. Wow, she's just like Hinata was when she was little. I was little, the others thought as the door opened completely, showing a girl with a butter yellow coat and wings, wearing a pair of shorts and a baggy green sweater that stayed up due to her chest, with a couple of butterflies stitched onto her sweater, with bubblegum pink mane and tail, with her hair coming over one eye. Howdy Fluttershy, we want you to meet some new friends of ours. That fella there is Naruto or Shadow Fire, Applejack said, pointing to Naruto, who waved with a slight smile. Then we've got Anko and Temari and Hinata, she said as the two smiled, waving or giving a salute, while Hinata gave a bow. And lastly we've got Shizune, Tsunade and Satsuki, they're new here to Ponyville, and Pinkie here insisted on showing them around. Everyone, this here is Fluttershy, she works as a vet and takes care of just about any critter that she comes across or some pony brings to her attention, Applejack said as Shizune bowed, while the other two nodded towards her while she waved with a smile. It's nice to meet you all, she said when a small bunny appeared on her shoulder, tapping her as she and everyone else looked at it, seeing it give her a stern glare while tapping its foot rapidly. Oh sorry, and this is Angel Bunny, but I just call her Angel, she said as the little rabbit waved at them before it hopped around Naruto before jumping on his head. Well, lol, rattlesnake in a mongoose pit, that ain't happened before, Applejack said as her friends nodded, getting a question mark appear over the others' heads. Is this really that rare? I mean, animals all seem to take this effect with me, but is she that cautious of others? Naruto asked, getting a snort from Applejack as Naruto scratched her under the chin. Cautious nothing, she's pretty much Pinkie Pie's Jiminy Cricket, and because of it, she'll act to defend her, while helping Fluttershy grow more self-confidence and self-esteem. Any other time a pony comes near her she'll scare them away, but you're the first she's ever accepted, really, Pinkie said as the girls all stared at the little rabbit make itself comfortable in Naruto's mane. If she's causing you any trouble I can get her off you if you want. Fluttershy said softly, getting a soft shake of the head. It's fine, she's not causing any trouble. So all the animals just love you, huh? Naruto asked, getting a nod from the timid mare. Well, I wouldn't say that, they all just seem to naturally like me, and I enjoy helping animals, she said, getting a soft smile from Naruto as he saw an image of a younger Hinata overlap her. Come on, we still gotta get to Twilights and Rarities, you slow pokes. They heard as she was already at the end of the road, making Naruto's group look from where she was to where she was before. How did she? But she was just here a moment ago. Tsunade exclaimed, getting a laugh from Applejack. It's best not trying to understand, Pinkie Pie. Twilight tried using every scientific method she had available, and she almost went insane, she said, making them all look at Fluttershy, who nodded meekly as they all ran after her. Twilight's library. Huff huff, man, how could she run that fast that quick? Temari panted, sitting against a large tree as the others panted, save for Fluttershy and Applejack. Does she ever get tired? Shizune asked, getting a negative from the two mares. Nope, she's got boundless energy that one. Some of us believe she's actually a unicorn as she hides her horn in her poofy mane, Applejack said good-naturedly as the others chuckled while Naruto raised an eyebrow. Or she's just capable of distorting reality and manipulate space and time to her will. Naruto said, getting the two girls to raise an eyebrow while the others nodded. Why would you think that, and more importantly, how is that even possible? Applejack asked. Where we were from before coming here, we were in a war, and let me say, even earth ponies could use some form of magic to spew fire. Create dragons made of water. Heck, the man who started the war was able to manipulate space and time to the point enemy attacks were useless because they would phase through him. We've seen some interesting things, he said as his girls nodded, with Anko doing an example as she disappeared in a puff of smoke, as in her place was a double of Naruto down to the last detail. How did you? Applejack and Fluttershy blushed at the sight of two Narutos, both of which had that smile that they found so alluring to them when Anko changed back. As we said, where we were before, earth ponies could do things like this no problem, even more devastating things too, he said as they nodded before opening the door. Inside the library. Pinkie. A girl said with a purple coat wearing a black skirt with bike shorts underneath, as well as a white button-up shirt and purple sleeveless sweater vest. Her tail and mane was a darker purple with a hot pink stripe in it, as her eyes were purple. The most notable thing was her horn and wings, showing she was an alicorn. On her sweater vest by the collarbone was a pink star surrounded by 5 smaller white stars. But then I was like, whoa, this guy was not only cute, but he was an alicorn, and he and his friends. Pinky continued as she ignored Twilight trying to get her attention until she was silenced thanks to her friend covering her mouth with her hand. I don't know why we don't just get her a muzzle, makes getting a word in so much easier. Twilight, her friend, said she had a cyan blue coat with her rainbow colored mane that she kept in a high ponytail and tail, and magenta colored eyes. She was wearing a pair of brown short shorts with a dark blue leotard and short hoodie that would leave her stomach bare. On the back of the jacket she had a storm cloud shooting a rainbow colored lightning bolt. That would be cruel. Rainbow dash. Now Pinky, I'm going to take my hand off your mouth. Do you promise to stop talking when I do so I can say what I have to say? Twilight asked, getting an excited nod which Twilight returned. Now Pinky, you said a random alicorn, a male alicorn at that, and several women just walked into your store with no bits to their name and you offered to show them around. Twilight asked, getting a hyperactive nod. And you took them to Applejack's family farm, then to Fluttershy's cottage when you decided to bring him here. She continued, getting another nod. Looking around she asked, so where are they? The hyperactive pink mare started to panic when they heard their here. Turning, they saw Applejack and Fluttershy walk into her library when they saw the new arrivals to Ponyville. As like before, the two mares blushed seeing Naruto. Twilight, this here is Shadowfire, but he goes by Naruto. With him are Satsuki, Tsunade, Shizune, Tamari, Anko and Hinata, Applejack said as they all nodded with a slight wave when Twilight used her magic to grab a book and read the word Naruto. Fish cake, she said, causing a depressed aura to flood the room as he sat in the corner. He has the second translation as goes with Maelstrom, and the first one is sensitive, Pinkie Pie said as she gently patted him on the shoulder, letting him get up. Anyways everyone, this here is Rainbow Dash, fastest flyer in all of Equestria and our resident alicorn princess Twilight Sparkle, she said, getting a sup from Rainbow Dash. Well, she got a wave from Twilight when a little purple scaled dragon walked in wearing gray shorts with a purple short-sleeved shirt under a green hoodie with short purple hair with toxic green streaks in it, with him just coming. The Naruto's mid-stomach. Hey Twilight, Pinkie Pie, Rainbow Dash, Aj, Fluttershy, I don't think I know you guys, he said, standing in front of Naruto and the others when Angel hopped out of his mane and onto the little dragon's head before running to Fluttershy, getting a snort from Anko and Tamari. Hey Spike, these ponies are new to town. That's Shadowfire, Tamari, Satsuki, Anko, Hinata, Shizune and Tsunade, and Pinkie Pie decided to show them all around Ponyville. Every pony, this is Spike, Twilight said, introducing the little purple and green lizard. Walking forward, he extended his clawed hand. He said, nice to meet you, as you know my name's Spike, welcome to Ponyville. Grabbing it in a handshake, Naruto said, thanks for the welcome. I've gotta be honest, I've never seen a dragon in real life before. I gotta say you've got a firm grip, you train. Nodding slightly, he said, I just started. Really, you'd be surprised what craziness goes on here in Equestria and mostly Ponyville. I've always been on the sidelines, so I started training to help out, even if it was small assistance, so I can protect the ponies that matter to me. Grinning, he said, a desire to protect what's important to you, admirable. Well, if you want, we've got some skills and techniques that would help you grow stronger to help them out when we get settled here. Just look for me and we can get started. He nodded as the rainbow-haired mare walked forward. It's nice to meet you. You know, when I heard Pinkie talk about there being a new alicorn in Ponyville, I thought she was simply on a sugar high since the last new alicorn was Twilight. He shrugged, saying yeah, she told me that excluding me there are only 4 alicorns, all of which are female. We recently won a war and after feeling like we've overstayed our welcome, I used a spell to bring us here. Well, more like the Everfree Forest. That's Ikora is one nice mare, to be honest, went as far as to let us into her hut even though she didn't know us. Twilight nodded, she is really nice, so shall we all head to Rarity's? They all nodded while Spike had hearts in his eyes, making the others sweat drop as Rainbow said quietly, he's got a huge crush on Rarity. He likes to think he's subtle with that, but everyone's widely aware of it. Well, every pony but Rarity. At the soft mentioning of Rarity, Spike started to slowly drool, making the sweat drop on the back of everyone's heads grow bigger as Applejack picked Spike up as they all left for the fashion designer. Rarity's boutique. So this is her store where she makes clothing on her own? Naruto asked, getting a nod from the girls gesturing to their clothes. Yup, she's pretty good with her magic and not bad at multitasking. She has her magic working several machines and coordinating fabrics and measurements. She's also designed clothing for some pretty famous ponies, Sapphire Shores being one, Twilight said as they walked in, seeing a unicorn whose coat was pristine white with a deep purple mane and tail. She wore a tan skirt with a black turtleneck while a purple diamond attached to a chain was around her neck with her deep blue borderline purple eyes. Rarity, we've got some new friends here in Ponyville and decided to show them around, Rainbow Dash said, making her turn from her focus to the large group when she blushed seeing Naruto before she gasped seeing their clothing before she appeared in front of Naruto, checking all of their clothes. Asked, my dear, what happened to all of your clothes? They look like they've gone through a shredder. She exclaimed before grabbing a roll of measuring tape and instantly took measurements for Naruto before asking him what type of clothing he likes best before she did the same for the girls. Looking at their clothes one more time, Naruto said, what's wrong with our clothes? I mean, yeah, they've seen better days, but I wouldn't say they're that bad. She shook her head saying, I can't let something like this go unseen, stick around and I'll be finished with your clothes soon. Pointing to the clothes they could see 5 complete sets, making their eyes snap open before Twilight said, it's like I said, she's pretty good at multitasking, especially for supermodels or music singers and musicians. You should have seen her during a fashion shoot a couple years ago. And finished. Rarity exclaimed, using her magic to hover over the new clothing to them all as Naruto and the others were pushed into the changing room as they all came out after a few moments. Naruto was wearing a pair of black denim jeans with 2 denim overlay pockets as he had belts wrapped around his legs with a long sleeveless gray double-ended zipper top that left the belly button bare, showing he had his fishnet on with a 2-tone sleeveless vest with the body being black with red lining as the inside was royal blue and a single black arm warmer, imagine Riku's KH2 costume. Anko wore black low-rise jeans with a blue long-sleeve top while keeping her hair in its pineapple-style cut as she ditched her jacket. Hinata wore a pair of grey shorts with orange long-sleeve shirt and a remake of her lavender jacket that was turned into a short jacket that came below her chest. Himari ditched her 4-pigtail hairstyle and now let her hair down in a single ponytail with a pair of brown zipper jaune shorts with a black V-cut short-sleeved shirt. Satsuki, who ditched the shirt and wore a black muscle shirt with a white short-sleeved jacket and black jeans with a single belt that was in a single loop that let it hang on her waist. Shizune wore a skirt with bike shorts underneath and a tight white turtleneck with the neck coming over her shoulders. And Tsunade wore tight vinyl leather jeans that hugged her figure, just like the girls wearing a red blouse, as they were all given approving nods from the others. You all just look so fabulous, tell me, how do they feel? Rarity asked with a smile, seeing them look themselves over. I like the feel of them, not too constricting but breathable, very comfortable too, Naruto said, stretching as the others agreed. Happily she clapped her hand saying, fantastic, well, as you know, my name is Rarity, the clothing designer of Ponyville. It's nice to meet you. Oh, and Spike, I went out to get some gems for some designs and got these for you. Levitating a large bucket full of gems, the little dragon started to drool with huge rubies in his eyes before he dived into the bucket, causing a backlash with a few hitting the girls while Naruto created a barrier with his magic. I take it he likes them? Hinata asked, getting a nod from the girls who were plucking a few stray gems off them. If they were a dragon or a mare, he'd marry them well before he eats them, that is, Rainbow Dash said with a chuckle, imagining such a thing. So Shadowfire, can I call you Shadowfire? Twilight asked, getting a shrug from Naruto. It doesn't matter, Shadowfire, Shadow or Naruto is fine. What did you want to ask? He said as they all sat on the couch when Rarity brought some tea in. I was wondering why the sudden appearance. And where exactly did you all come from? I would think the entirety of Equestria would know about a May-Lollicorn, she asked, getting a shrug as he drank some of his tea. First, I must say, Rarity, this is amazing. And secondly, as for your question, Twilight, the reason nobody in Equestria besides you 6 and Zecora knows about me is because I wasn't born on Equestria, he said, getting raised eyebrows from the others as Rainbow Dash stood up. Wait, if you weren't born on Equestria, then where did you come from? Who are your parents? The rainbow-haired flyer asked, getting a raised hand. First, do any of you know of the possibility of multiple worlds and universes? Naruto asked as Twilight's friends had a question mark over their heads, unlike Twilight, whose eyes light up. I know Celestia was my teacher and told me that there are multiple worlds that are parallel to one another with different possibilities, she said, getting a nod from Naruto as he smiled. Very good. You see, my mom used a spell to come to the world I was born in, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, she couldn't bring me with her. That involves treachery and betrayal and a lot of bloodshed, Naruto said, getting raised eyebrows from the girls. Applejack said, like what? Well, before I was born, my mom contained a powerful demon that was capable of altering landscapes and creating tsunamis with a swing of one of its 9 tails. This was the Kyubi no Yoko, or the 9-tailed fox. Someone told an enemy about my birth because a female Jinchuriki is weakest at that moment, Naruto started to explain, getting a raised hand from Twilight, who had a notepad on hand. Yes, Twilight? Naruto asked. What is a Jinchuriki? And if a creature your mom held was the 9 tails, is it possible were more? She asked, getting a nod as he grabbed some scrap paper and started to draw 10 illustrations. For the first question, the translation for Jinchuriki is the power of human sacrifice. It's when you seal demon into a child in hopes of them being able to harness said demon's power and turn it into a weapon, he said, getting gasps from the women. As for the second, yes, there was originally one known as the Juubi no Oni, the 10-tailed demon. It was split into 9 other demons when a sage defeated it and had them act as guardians until people started forgetting history and saw them as monsters. These demons were known as the 1-tailed sand raccoon, the 2-tailed hellcat, the 3-tailed turtle, the 4-tailed ape, the 5-tailed dolphin horse, the 6-tailed slug, the 7-tailed horn beetle, the 8-tailed octopus bull, and the 9-tailed fox, he said, showing them the different beings, causing Applejack to whistle. Land sakes, I sure would hate to run into one of them in a dark alley, she said, getting nods from the others. Well, there is no need to worry about them since they're gone now. Anyways, when my mom came to my world, she was in ethereal form and fused her soul with a dying child and lived her life through her. Things were okay from the small note she wrote me until that day. You see, when she got there, she was chosen to be the new bearer of the 9 tails since the last one before her was dying. She took the position, and like Uzumaki, her existence as a Jinchuriki was kept hidden, he said, getting another raised hand from Twilight. Why were they kept secret? Twilight asked with a raised hand. It's a twofold reason. If a person contains a biju is kept secret, then it would protect them from the hate the people would throw at you. He started when Fluttershy said. Hate? Why would they hate someone for containing such a thing? She asked timidly, getting a sigh. People fear what they don't understand. If someone knew you contained a force of nature, they would see you as a monster and as such would shun you, or worse, try to kill you any chance they get, he said, getting wide eyes. The second reason is because the other nations had a Jinchuriki, so with having one you had a secret weapon. Why expose your ace in the hole to your opponent? He asked, getting a nod. Anyways, when the madman ripped the 9 tails out of Mom, my father could have sent it to the netherworld, but instead he decided to create another weapon for the village, well, blindly thinking the village would see me as a hero. He started as Rainbow Dash asked. Why do you hate your dad? She asked, getting a snort. The man was a liar. He preached about family above all, but instead he went against that and decided to have a weapon for the village, even though my mother never used it or Mito before her. My mom might have brought me with her if it weren't for a certain old ape, he growled as they raised an eyebrow. Who? Rarity asked, not quite understanding what she was guessing was an insult. The man who I once saw as a grandfather. He poisoned the body my mother inhabited, resulting in her dying, as this was all part of his plan. He and the man who trained my father. They wanted a young child to harbor the 9 tails, so I could be molded into some loyal tool loyal to the village. To do this, he had to pretend to save me. He started as his eyes glowed slightly. Save? How would he save you? Pinkie Pie asked. He revealed my status as a Jinchuriki, and with the fact it nearly whipped out the village only fueled everyone's hate even more. He would have his special ops known as Anbu to have them save me from the mobs that would nearly kill me on a basis. My godfather lied to my cousin on Minato's side of the family. Pointing to Tsunade, he said about me dying during birth, causing me to grow up without any family, so my loyalty would be to the village and nobody else since I held the strongest of the tailed beast. I discovered this plan at the age of 3 when I ran from a mob and hid in his office. When I found the notes in my rage, I found the house Minato left me to have when I was old enough and found the things Mom left me and trained away from public eye while growing stronger as they tried to stunt my growth. At this point the girls were growing angry to the point Pinkie Pie's mane and tail deflated as she completely lost color, while Fluttershy actually straightened out her back as her eyes narrowed. 15 years later the same madman started a war as he tried to collect the 9-tailed beast to recreate the first 10 tails. The war was a long one, but we won when we killed the man responsible, and I sealed the 10 tails away inside myself. The downside was I didn't become the Jinchuriki, I became the new Juubi, he said, lifting his tails as they split into 10 before lowering it as he leaned his head back looking at the ceiling. What happened after that? I mean, you're 18 now, what happened after that? Rainbow Dash asked in suspense, getting a scowl from the others. Things didn't get any better, Tsunade said as she clenched her fist, causing the knuckles to crack. What happened? Fluttershy asked as they all dreaded the answer when the others frowned. After all was said and done, the nations didn't appreciate everything he's done for them, not in the way you would think. After saving them all from enslavement and from being killed, the 5 nations all pretty much turned him into a glorified pet who they think he's supposed to do as they pleased while they thought as they were superior to him. The man who saved them from being killed, Tamari's brother who was a Jinchuriki like him, saw Naruto as such, she said, as the girls growled with Twilight asking as the rest pieced how they got here together. Okay, I can safely say I hate the world you came from, but to traverse worlds would require a lot of mana. So who is your mother? She asked as the others were curious. I'll give you a hint, she's the oldest of 2 who is the opposite of Night, he said with a grin, trying to change the mood from its depressing feel as they all looked at Twilight, who slowly pieced it together, whose eyes widened. You're Princess Celestia's son, she exclaimed, getting a nod from the others as they all bowed before he used his tails to gently smack them on the forehead, making them look up. Now you see why I didn't mention it off the bat, because you all would have started that nonsense. I haven't done anything to deserve that treatment, alright. All I want is to be treated like any normal pony and become your friends while trying to live a life here in Equestria, and I don't want to hear anything about a prince, alright?" He said with a smile, making them nod. But he said as they sat up when Pinkie Pie hugged him, getting a raised eyebrow from him. "She's the emotional type. If she feels you keep your emotions pent up, she feels someone's got to express it for them, so she tends to do it herself," Twilight said as they saw her hug Titan, making him gently pat her on the back as she sniffed before letting up as she saw him smile. "Well, Shadow, I hate to say it, but the train to get to Canterlot is currently under repairs, and I would guess the spell you used to get here drained you quite a bit," Rarity asked, getting a nod. "Yeah, traversing worlds is rather taxing. I could possibly perform that spell twice a day if I could get a steady supply of energy to do it," he said as he yawned, stretching. "Do you guys have anywhere to stay for the time being?" Fluttershy asked, getting a negative from the group of world jumpers. "Nope, sadly we don't have a bit to either of our names. We were possibly going to make a campsite for the night and travel to Canterlot when the sun comes up. I mean, if leave early, we should make it by midnight tomorrow," Tsunade said, causing the farm girl to stand. "Now that we just can't have. If you'll want, I can put you all up at the farm. We got plenty of room there until either Twilight gets a letter from the princess for some transportation, but till then you'll are free to stay with me and ma family at Sweet Apple Acres," she said in a won't take no for an answer tone, missing the jealous glares from her friends. "Well, if you insist, but at the least let us help you on the farm till then as our sign of thanks," Tsunade said as the others agreed, unable to accept such kindness without repaying them. "Alright, come on, Granny Smith is probably setting dinner already," she said as they all walked out, waving goodbye to the others. Sweet Apple Acres. "You know, Applejack, it's still hard to believe that just you and your siblings are the only ones to work here on the farm," Anko said, looking at the large spread of apple trees. "Well, it's like I said, we get some help from family every now and again, but with hard work and dedication we manage on our own just fine. Applebloom is able to handle about 10 to 20 trees on her own before getting tuckered out. Big Mac and I can clear about 100 easy," she said, getting a whistle as she opened the main door. "Granny, think you can set up 7 more plates? We got company," she announced as they followed her into the dining room. "Mo, we've got guests. Well, let me just get a few more plates," then the elderly woman said, walking back into the kitchen. She aged well for her elderly state. She had a pale green coat with her grey mane and coat done in a bun, as she wore a pair of jeans and flannel button-up shirt with a hot pie on her shoulder. "I'm Applebloom, it's great having new company over," a little girl said with a yellowish coat with red mane and a bow in her mane. She was wearing blue overalls and an orange shirt with a wide smile. "At the tallest in the room," said, standing just over Naruto by a few inches, making him 6'6" with a red coat and blonde mane and tail, wearing worn blue jeans and a grey flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up. "Everyone, this here is Shadowfire, Tsunade, Satsuki, Hinata, Tamari, Anko and Shizune. They're new here to Ponyville, so I offered to shack them up until we can get to Canterlot to speak with the princesses about something. They'll be helping us out on the farm for the time being as a way of showing their gratitude," Applejack explained as Granny Smith had set several plates down for the new guest when she reached up and pinched Naruto's cheek. "Oh, you're so skinny, child, let Granny Smith put some meat on those bones," she said, sitting them all down and filling their plates completely. Taking a bite, Naruto said, "This is simply the most amazing thing I've tasted, Granny Smith." Satsuki nodded as she ate, and the others ate at a slower pace than Naruto, saying, "I gotta agree, what's your secret?" She chuckled while shaking her head, saying, "Sorry, Missy, but unless one of you intend on marrying the family, I can't reveal that. Been in the family for generations." Nodding, Naruto said with a grin, "Well, that's a shame, although." Damari cut him off. "Applejack seems like a pretty nice mare for Naruto. We need help keeping this idiot grounded sometimes." Hearing this, Applejack blushed while trying to make herself seem as small as possible, while Granny Smith looked between the shrinking apple mare and Alicorn Prince, who was off in his own world, with an eye smile. "I agree, Applejack needs an honest colt in her life, some pony who can deal with her strong-headed nature. But I'm going to take a guess that you girls all share this little colt here," she said, looking at them intently, making their eyes widen. "How did you?" Hinata asked, getting a shrug from the old mare as she grinned. "You don't live to be my age and not notice things, my little filly. Now how is that possible?" she asked as Tsunade explained the relationship situation where they were from as they all continued to eat. She closed her eyes, saying, "So where you were all from, if you're the last of your family to ensure that they continue to live, they have a colt or a mare, marry multiple mates, and have children, so he's not only an alicorn, but he's the last of several families, 2 of which you, Satsuki here and Naruto share." They nodded while turning her attention to Naruto, who already had his 4th helping. "And tell me, young man, do you just marry any mare who you come across?" He shook his head, saying, "No, I only marry out of love, nothing less. I would do anything to ensure their safety, even at the risk of my own life. As to me, family holds more importance than anything, Granny Smith." Looking into his eyes she could see he was telling the truth as she relented standing she said, "You're a good colt Naruto, he's a keeper Applejack, you should give him a chance someday but for now it's late, so let's all get to bed, we got a lot of apples to pick tomorrow, so be up bright and early." They all nodded as they cleaned their plates as Applejack led them all to their rooms. The shower later in Naruto's room. "Man, I don't care, I could really get over ramen if I could have more of Granny Smith's cooking," Naruto said sitting on the bed in his boxers, and Sweetman's Big Mac was kind enough to let him wear with his new clothes, sitting on the seat of an open chair before he fell back. Slowly letting sleep claim him, he thought, "I finally made it, and just a little longer mom, and I'll finally get to see you again." He felt chakra being used as he saw the room flash blue, before he felt a weight on top of him as the shadow leaned forward, showing it was Tamari wearing just her sky blue panties, showing her firm cup with her mane and tail still wet from her shower. "Shadow Koi, you know I can't sleep without a workout," she said huskily as she began to grind against his member, as he felt her coat was still damp, showing she had just got out of the shower as well with her hair still dripping. "Hey Aj, I didn't think you'd be up so late," Tamari said with a smile, now wearing an oversized shirt making the farm mare jump. "Hey Tamari, was getting a drink of water when I dropped my glass, so I had to clean up the mess," Applejack said as an excuse, getting a snort from the former Suna Kunoichi. "Well, if you're still going for another drink of water, care to have some company?" Naruto fell asleep shortly after a chat about what we're going to do next while we're here, she said, getting a hesitant nod as she blushed. "Kitchen." Grabbing a glass as they poured some apple juice, the two spoke while sitting on the counter, chatting about all the crazy antics they've experienced, with Applejack laughing. "Wait, you're saying that Naruto accidentally kissed Satsuki while she pretended to be a boy?" she asked with tears in her eyes, trying to catch her breath, getting a nod. "Yup, well, Naruto pretended to be a moron, he had to deal with a girl with a bubblegum pink mane, who was Satsuki's #1 fan girl, while Naruto pretended to be an idiot, he used her as his cover, because she was so obnoxiously loud, not like Pinkie Pie," she said, shaking her head. "No, unlike Pinkie Pie she was pathetic, always expecting someone to do the work for her, or hoped her knight in shining armor would always save her, and let her skills as a kunoichi amount to that of a basic student with glorified strength, because she was trained by Tsunade until she attacked Naruto when he brought Satsuki back with a few bruises when she went rogue," she explained, getting a shocked look from her. "What about him, how was he?" she asked, getting a sigh. Doofus-sized puncture wounds to his heart because Satsuki was taught an assassination spell that was made from lightning. If it weren't for him containing the 9 tails, and him being an alicorn, and thus making him immortal, he would have died. That didn't stop all of his former friends and the other ninja in the village, she said, growling before she stopped. They waited till he was permitted to leave the hospital when the doctors who hated him deemed him stable. Their idea of stable was him breathing and conscious. When they saw him standing, they kicked him out of the hospital, and he was attacked by the ninja of the village, including the team he was on to retrieve Satsuki. When Tsunade came in, she came to see me and my former brothers there, keeping them back when she saw Sakura slam a supercharged punch capable of compressing the ground into his abdomen, she said, shuddering at the image. When Tsunade saw this, she went on a rage along with Hinata, Shizune, Anko and I, as we killed many of the ninja before me and the others were detained by Anbu, the black ops of the ninja world. We were going to be executed when my sensei and Tsunade-sama made a threat, she said, getting a raised eyebrow. "What was it?" Applejack asked as she sighed. First, Tsunade found records saying that Naruto was the one who got them so many alliances with several different continents and villages, my old village included, when he stopped my brother from destroying his village. Sensei said if they execute Naruto and us, then he would notify the other villages about the treatment of a hero for not only completing a mission, but also dissipate the contracts we had with the village. He had the backing of all the villages Naruto helped to, saying they would break their contract as well. He even had the backing of their country's daimyo that would and did cut the funding of their village by 30% after hearing about the treatment of one of their ninja for doing his job, she said, getting a snort from Aj. "Oh, I hope I see those snakes in the crabgrass, because I'm going to make them pay for doing that to such a kind cult," she exclaimed, getting a smile. "So I have to ask," she said, softly sliding closer to Applejack as she whispered. "Did you enjoy our performance?" she asked, getting a startled up as she hopped up from her seat. "H, how did you know?" she asked, getting a coy smile. "Why dear, I saw you peeping on us. You know me and the girls want to add to our family. If you and your friends want, you could join us," she asked with a smile as Applejack asked. "How can he keep so many women mares happy? I mean, there are 6 of you, he would have to have some sort of trick to satisfy you like he did with you," she asked, blushing as the expression Tamari had was still fresh in her head. "Well, not only is he an alicorn, but he's also the new Juubi, a powerful demon, so he's got stamina in spades, along with his chakra, yokai and mana," she said, getting a nod when she asked another question. "What about growing older? I mean, he's immortal and you're all gonna pass on sooner or later," she said, getting a shake of the head. When we mate he marks us as his lovers and as such we're only attracted to him. I mean we may think a guy is attractive, but not as much as Naruto who won us over with his loving and dedicated personality. Another thing that makes us fall for him is because he does something out of love for us and appreciates us, she said, yawning. We may live forever, but we have nothing to regret because like this we can always be part of our children's lives. The choice is yours, and the girl's Aj, but know that Naruto would never betray your love, Aj, Temari said, patting the farm pony on the shoulder as she went to her bedroom, as Aj did the same thing as she laid down in her bed. Thinking as sleep claimed her, should I give him a chance? I mean he's a nice pony and all, but if I do then what would I do? Sure I could continue to look over the farm, but when I have my own mares and stallions, but what then? Yawning she said, closing her eyes. I sleep on it after talking this out with some pony. While she slept she had dreams of little black coat and blonde man fillies and orange coat and red and black man colts running around the farm as a smile formed on her face. Apple Family Farm 2 months later. Big bro, it's time to wake up. The sleeping Alicorn heard as he felt something fall on his chest, making him groan from the pressure as he opened an eye to see a young filly with an orange coat wearing a pair of grey cargo shorts and blue sleeveless shirt under a black hooded jacket with a white Uzumaki spiral on the pocket. She had a purple mane with a red and black streak with a matching tail. Her eyes were a vibrant purple that had slightly grayed from the outside in. This was Scootaloo, a little orphan filly who is friends with Applebloom and part of the CMC. He adopted her as his sister when he learned she was living without someone to raise her, and the orphanage didn't even know she had been living on the streets, or they simply didn't care. Unable to accept this, he marched down to the orphanage with her in hand and claimed her as his sister after he signed the papers and took her to Applejack's farm, where he told them all, which they accepted. While Applebloom was happy her friend finally had a family to call her own. The girls all treated her like a kid sister and performed a blood ritual on her, making their bond as family real, although he sensed a familiar energy form in her but pushed that aside and made her a half-demon with 5 tails worth of yokai that seemed to grow at a slow rate and a large chakra network. He and the girls, when they weren't helping at Applejack's farm, took to training her in their arts, while Naruto, Rainbow Dash, Temari, Hinata and Satsuki trained her and taught her to fly, which she could now move above a chunin in speed on the ground, and in the air she was a proverbial blur. Granted, she was still slow to them since they were trained ninja, but they admitted it was an impressive feat all the same. She was slower than Rainbow Dash in a simple stride, but with the use of gravity and resistance seals that Naruto put on her to train her more, she's going to become even faster and stronger. They also took to teaching her the shinobi arts, and Naruto trained her in Riatsu when she gained her Tuzanpakudo, although she hadn't learned either's name, yet she was exceptionally close. She was curious about the ninja arts and Riatsu and admitted she was afraid she wouldn't be any good, but she was a quick start in the shinobi arts and was slowly advancing in Kido. She mastered the genin level curriculum and was already by far a high chunin in skill in the arts except medical ninjutsu, where she was a low chunin. Kinjutsu she was a low jounin while learning from Naruto and Satsuki and made a dual kinjutsu style. Her taijutsu was a low chunin but learned Anko's snake fist, which she was rather decent at. For ninjutsu, as Naruto suspected, as she was a Pegasus, she had a triple affinity for wind, lightning, water and was low jounin after learning she had reserves comparable to Naruto's when he was a child, which put her at high Kage reserves with jounin control. Yeah, they abused the hell out of her shadow clones for that. Her Fuinjutsu was the best so far at Uzumaki jounin level. Naruto and the others made her promise not to use those skills unless it was to defend others. Same for her Kido and her other techniques, which she agreed to. Brown 5 more minutes is bro sleepy, Naruto complained under his blanket as a light storm gray hand patted her on the head, making her roll her eyes before getting off as she snatched the covers off. Underneath was a bare chest Naruto, whose coat had lightened since his arrival to Equestria. He believed that it was because he could finally have the thing he desired, and that was peace and happiness. Peace, knowing it was a fat chance in hell that the elemental nations would find him and the others. And happiness because he didn't have to deal with people feeling they were instantly superior to him because of his status as a Biju. Opening his eyes, his sclera stayed black as his eyes were now white as he saw an annoyed Scootaloo glaring at him, making him chuckle as he got out of bed before going into the shower to wash up. I can't wait, today's family appreciation day at school. I can't wait for everyone to see how cool you are, she said, hopping around as her slightly above average wings flapped in excitement. Chuckling as he walked out of the bathroom wearing his clothes with his black arm warmer with his hair done in a ponytail, making his bangs frame his face with a pair of black bandages over his eyes, with his Rinnegan active to see as he tapped her forehead with his index finger, saying, "Yes, I am awesome, but so are the girls. They are your sisters as well. Come on sis, when we finish eating we can leave." She nodded as she ran down the stairs with him in tow as he greeted the others, while Applejack waved with a blush. She and the others admitted they had grown feelings for him, which he admitted he liked them as well, but decided to take things slow and start off as friends, which they agreed to, although he would take them out to eat. "Morning everyone, how are you all today?" Naruto said with a smile, sitting down at the table with Scootaloo sitting next to him. "Howdy Naruto, you come to Family Appreciation Day at school?" Applebloom asked with a smile as Naruto returned it after patting Scootaloo's head. "Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing your school. It seems you two and Sweetie Belle like it there," he said as the two nodded after they stuffed their faces before Scootaloo nodded. "Yeah, it's great, especially although I could go without having to deal with Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara," she said, making him raise an eyebrow at those names, as Applejack explained. "They're these two young fillies who like to make fun of them for not finding their special talent," she explained, making him and the others nod before he asked. "Are they rich?" he asked, getting a set of nods from the two. "Do they have a I'm more superior than you personality?" Again they nodded. "Did they grow into wealth and possibly popularity because of it?" Another nod. "And I'll guess that their names have something to do with their talent," he asked, getting a nod. "Then pay them no mind in the slightest," he said, making them raise their eyebrows. "How? They always what was that word?" Reedy Applebloom started before tilting her head, making him chuckle. "The word you're looking for is ridicule, Applebloom. And the best way to get to them is to pay them no attention, because there are going to be people like them everywhere in Equestria and in our old world. Money can only do so much for them. Sure, it pays bills, keeps a roof over your head, and clothes on your backs with food in your stomach, but it won't make a pony truly happy. Real friends and an honest family built from love will," he said, getting a nod from the others as they finished eating. "Those are good words to live by, Yunjin. But I agree with Naruto Applebloom, money's all well and good, but it won't make you as happy as a real family would," Granny Smith said, after collecting everyone's plates. "Now you all get going, you don't want to be late, do ya?" she asked, getting a negative from the two fillies as they grabbed Naruto and Applejack as they waved goodbye. "Hey bro, can we do that one technique, hahaha," she asked excitedly, making him look at Applejack, who shrugged as they all held onto him before they vanished in a burst of static. Outside the school. "Whoa. That was awesome, can we do it again?" Applebloom said, getting a chuckle from the others since this was the first time she ever experienced that type of technique. "Maybe after class, Applebloom," he said, rubbing her head, getting a giggle from her when they heard. "Hey guys." As they turned, they saw Rarity wearing her usual clothing, and next to her was Philly that had a white gray coat with a purple and pink mane and tail that curled slightly as she had big bright green eyes. She wore a yellow skirt with a white and hot pink shirt under a magenta coat with a blue belt. "Hey Rarity, Sweetie Belle, you guys excited?" Applebloom asked, getting a nod from her friend as the two and Scootaloo talked, making the three attendees stand on the sidelines. "So how does this whole Family Appreciation Day work? Do we just talk about ourselves or what?" Naruto asked as he talked to the two mares next to him stood nearby. It's simple, Sugar Cube. Cheerily will ask you some general questions like what you do, what your talent is, and some other questions. Applejack started as he nodded with his arms folded. "And she will let the kids ask you some questions, usually when did you learn your talent, what your cutie mark means, do you enjoy what you do, and try to get some embarrassing info on your sister. But don't worry, you're going to do just fine, darling. There's nothing to worry about, you're an excellent older brother," Rarity said, getting a nod from Naruto. "Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence, it's just I've never done anything like this before, so I guess I'm a little nervous," he said, scratching the back of his head as they chuckled at him. "Just be your normal self and you'll be fine, bro," Scootaloo said, dragging him by his hand as they walked through the halls of the school. Twilight's library. "Dear Princess Celestia. It has come to my attention 2 months ago today that a new alicorn has been made known in Ponyville, along with several mares that he is close to. He says that he holds a connection to you and was wanting to see you, but with how the train is down and still under repair, and his friends are incapable of flying there, seeing as only a few of them are Pugasi. I send you this letter so you could send for an escort for us to come to Canterlot so you two could meet face to face. I also took the liberty of having Spike take a few photos of him and his newly adopted little sister so you could see what he looks like. From your faithful student. Twilight Sparkle." P.S. Naruto Shadow Fire is with Scootaloo, Rarity, Sweetie Belle, Applejack and Applebloom at the girls' school to be Scootaloo's family member for Family Appreciation Day. She wrote as she curled it up while including several photos. One of him and Scootaloo sleeping on the roof of Sweet Apple Acres at night with her head on his stomach, both snoring rather loudly. Another was of him, the girls with her and her friends in Sugar Cube Corner with him covered in flour as he was helping out in the kitchen with Pinkie Pie. The third was him in a pair of pants without his shirt bucking apples with Applebloom, Big Mac and Applejack covered in sweat. The fourth was him meditating with a bunch of animals gathered around him as his eyes were closed with Scootaloo looking at him with a raised eyebrow while pointing at the deep black markings around his eyes. The fifth was a collection of him at Rarity's boutique as he modeled several clothing designs. And the sixth was him and Satsuki teaching Scootaloo Kenjutsu. Spike Spike. Spike. She called, making him groan as he walked out of his bedroom with his eyes barely open as he yawned. Sorry Spike, I forgot this was your afternoon break, could you send this to Princess Celestia? It's important that she gets this, she said, making him nod after giving her a glare before spewing out a small burst of green fire as he incinerated the scroll. What did you have me send, Twilight? Spike asked, yawning while scratching his stomach. Sorry Spike, but that was a letter to Princess Celestia, asking if she could get us some transportation to Canterlot so Naruto and Princess Celestia can get to meet after 18 years. It's been 2 months and the train has had no progress in its maintenance. I would rather have rode the train because I don't like asking for a ride, she said, getting a nod from him. Do you think it will be sometime soon? I know he's still waiting to see her, Spike said, getting a sigh from the Alicorn princess. I don't know Spike, but I sure hope so, she said as she let him get back to his nap. Celestia bedchambers. Laying on her bed was Celestia, wearing her bedrobe, staring at the photo she had of Shadow Fire in her arms, thinking it's been 2 months and I've heard nothing of my son since I've felt him come here. Is he okay? Did he not want to see me? I never meant to leave him alone, it's all that bastard Minato and Sarutobi's fault, and Jiraiya's no better using my son to accomplish some damn false prophecy. If I see that sniveling toad, I'll rip his flesh off and use it as a damn hammock. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't notice a scroll appear above her until it landed on her head while opening, causing the photos that were inside to fall around her. What the, she said, grabbing the scroll that fell on her head, making her unravel it, seeing Twilight stamp as she read. Dear Princess Celestia. It has come to my attention that 2 months ago today, and knew. She froze as she read the rest when she read that he wanted to see her before she growled, hearing that the train was down. Grabbing the pictures Spike took, she couldn't help but blush seeing her son, especially the one with him not wearing a shirt, which she tucked under her main pillow for her personal pleasure, while placing the others in the new additions to her scrapbook while smiling seeing Naruto and Scootaloo together. Sister, she heard, drawing her attention from the photos to see Luna and the others enter her room, making her leave the photos on her bed. Luna, Ascura, Eris, Chrysalis. What can I do for you? She asked as they walked in, sitting in a chair. I felt something was wrong, are you okay? You were really depressed earlier today, she asked, getting a happy nod. Yes sister, I'm fine, more than fine really. My dear student Twilight just sent me a letter saying a male Alicorn has taken temporary residence in Ponyville with a couple of acquaintances of his. She even sent me pictures of him, in fact, she said with a warm smile as she handed them the collection of pictures Twilight sent. So this is your son? I have to say, if it weren't for the mane and tail and the slightly darker coat, I'd swear you just took a picture of you after you came in contact with poison. Joke, Ascura said, getting a sniff from Eris. But he is rather cute with those bright wide eyes of his. Oh, and that smile, Eris said as the others agreed with a slight blush coloring their cheeks. So sister, what are you going to do? Luna asked after schooling her features, trying to contain her blush. Well, right now he's accompanying his adopted sister Scootaloo at her school for Family Appreciation Day, so the class day will be rather short. I'll send for a chariot to pick them up later around 2, she said with a smile, looking at a photo. Anyway Celestia, we wanted to let you know that your and Luna's nephew Prince Blueblood is coming in a couple days, Chrysalis said with an obvious groan, which the others understood. Blueblood was an insufferable pony that fit the stereotypical high society rich boy attitude. He was rather vocal about having the changelings, Queen of Chaos and the warmongering Queen of the Fallen Iron Kingdom in the kingdom, let alone let their kind interact with the pony folk. Celestia could only shudder at the thought of him knowing about Naruto. Pushing the thought aside, she said, baby steps at the moment, Chrysalis. For now we'll deal with sending a letter to Twilight telling her that a chariot for her, Naruto and their company to arrive when Family Appreciation Day is over. Then Blueblood? Eris asked, getting a sigh from the ruler of the sun. The same thing we do every time we have him over, grit our teeth, bite our tongues and swallow our pride. Who knows if Naruto is like my other personality Kushina, then he just might send Blueblood home early, she said hopefully as they mentally prayed. Grabbing a piece of parchment, she quickly wrote her letter to Twilight before burning it as it evaporated into smoke before saying, and now we wait. They nodded, just as excited to meet their fiancé in person over a photo. Miss Shirley's class. Both Rarity and Applejack had already gone while Naruto sat in the back against the wall as he waved at Scootaloo when she looked back before she pointed out his swords that he absently grabbed with him as he chuckled slightly before sealing them away. Well, seeing as we're all finished with Family Appreciation Day, I'll have to wish you all a Sarah's coated mare said. She had grayish harlequin eyes with a light grayish rose mane and light cerusish gray striped tail. She was wearing a deep green skirt that had a flower pattern with a white button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up her arms under a brown sweater vest. This was Shirley, the teacher at the school in Ponyville. It seems Scootaloo doesn't have any pony to show for Family Appreciation Day again for the 3rd year in a row. Ha ha ha, a young girl sitting next to Scootaloo said with a pale magenta coat with a pale light grayish-violet mane and tail, as both had a white streak in it with cornflower blue eyes. She wore a skirt with bike shorts underneath, wearing a black shirt under a yellow jacket with a tiara on her head. This was one of the two girls that would torment Applebloom, Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle, as the second girl who had a cornflower bluish-gray coat with a cerulean gray mane and tail, with a cornflower bluish-gray streak in them. Under a pair of cyan blue wire-frame glasses were a set of grayish-violet eyes. She wore a purple skirt with deeper purple shirt as a spoon was seen around her neck. Poor Scootaloo, this was Silver Spoon, who was genuinely sad for her since she knew that Scootaloo never had anyone to come for Family Appreciation Day. Actually, I do have some pony to show for Family Appreciation Day. My big brother Shadowfire, she said, standing as she pointed in the back as Naruto waved slightly as he walked forward as he patted Scootaloo on the head while walking to the front. As he wrote his name down on the chalkboard like all the other parents had, along with his cutie mark, while he made annotations before turning. "Your name, sir?" cheerily asked, making him smile before bowing. "Hello Verpony, as a few of you in here know or have seen me around Ponyville, I'm Shadowfire. My friends call me Shadow, SF, or Naruto, and no, not the ramen topping," he said, getting a few sniggers from the room, making him grin. He felt cheerily tap him, making him turn his attention to her. "Yes. I must ask, why do you have your eyes covered? Did you damage them or are you blind?" she asked, getting a negative as he scratched the back of his head. "No, you see, I was born with a unique set of eyes that I can change at will, but their natural look, much like the other changes, put ponies off, so I keep them covered," he said, getting a nod. She asked, "Could you remove them? I would like for you to answer whatever questions they might have." He relented as he undid the bandage around his eyes as he opened them, showing black sclera with bright silvery wide eyes staring at them with slit pupils, making a few say cool. "Now I'm Naruto, right?" she asked, getting a shrug as she continued. "Naruto, what is your relationship with Scootaloo?" "Well, you see, cheerily, I had adopted Scootaloo as my little sister 2 months back because I found the pony working there and let her into the orphanage for a few months, making her sleep outside while they collected her stipend. Well, she received nothing. Not liking this, I took Scootaloo down there and had a rather colorful conversation with him, filled with a well-worded threat. We've yet to get a stable home as we currently live with Applejack and her family out of the kindness of their hearts. Of course, we help around the farm, showing our appreciation. Of course, I'm still making some bits from the books I've written, so we can expect to find a home large enough for me and my friends who have traveled with me," he said, stretching. "If you don't mind my asking, Naruto, what does your cutie mark represent?" "I've never seen anything like it," cheerily asked as he tilted his head to the side before answering. "Well, to explain it without getting some pony lost along the way, my cutie mark allows me the masterful command of the elements. Wind, water, fire, earth, lightning, all of these and everything that would be used in combination with ease. I can also create things out of nothing, just like I can destroy." He started as he created a ring of water before it dispersed into a burst of wind. In his hand was a ball of black fire, then there was purple-black electricity charged around him, and when he stomped his foot, he created a large column of earth before he pushed it down. After that, he created a chair out of his energy which he sat on, causing them to go wide-eyed before cheerily snapped out of it, asking, "You? What? Hahaha. That tends to be the first reaction many get when they see me do that. You see, I had my cutie mark when I was born, but took time to master and learn everything about it, and it was by no means easy," he said, causing her to nod before she looked to the class. "Now class, you're free to ask any question you may have," she said before stepping back behind her desk when Silver Spoon raised her hand. "Yes, Silver Spoon, right?" he asked, getting a nod from the bespectacled girl. "Yes, I was wondering, what are those things behind your back? And why does your tail split into 10 tails like that?" she asked, making his wings fully extend, getting wide eyes while his tails fanned out behind him. "Well, Silver Spoon, that's a rather good question. You see, I was naturally born an alicorn, although my mom couldn't take me with her because some ponies betrayed her. You see, in the continent she had me, and the leader of the village wanted a weapon that would obey him and was loyal to only him. It was only until recently I could find Ponyville and came here." He started, getting wide-eyed fillies and colts. "Anyways, I'm going to skip a bit of my life to get to Silver Spoon's second question. It was 2 years ago when a madman wanted to control the world through Luna's moon by placing everyone under one massive illusion. To do this, he needed the power of an ancient demon that not even the princesses could defeat without falling. Me and my friends were part of an army to defeat it," he said, as everyone was wide-eyed. "An entity not even the 2 princesses could defeat. It took a lot of effort and many ponies we cared about fell in battle, but I managed to defeat it. Although the end result was me becoming that same entity," he said, pointing to his tails. "Any other questions?" he asked when Diamond Tiara raised her hand, making him nod. "Yes, I have a question. What do you like to do in your free time?" she asked curiously. "Well, a number of things, really. training, flying, spending time with my sister, writing stories, and if the weather is nice enough just sleep outside on a nice firm cloud or helping my friends around town," he said with an eye smile. "What stories do you write?" she asked, making him reach into his pocket, showing 3 books, making the entire room save for Scootaloo, Applebloom and the others who were avid readers of his stories go wide-eyed. "You wrote The Stallion with Two Souls, Rise of the Maelstrom, and A New Life from Darkness," cheerily asked, getting a nod from the alicorn. "Yeah, I found out I had a knack for it some time ago, but never got around to having them published. I owe Twilight because she knew a pony that could help me with it. I'm halfway finished with my newest story, but I tend to take my time with them," he said when every pony in the room grabbed copies of his books, making him and the others sweat drop. "Want an autograph?" he deadpanned, getting a series of nods, making him sigh before nodding as he created a pen. "Alright, everyone step forward and no shoving, I'll get to signing your copy soon enough," he said as a line formed, making him think maybe I can get used to this sort of thing. "Twilight's library. Ow. Me and my big mouth," Naruto said, holding his throbbing hand as his sister sat next to him with a rainbow mane mare laughing. "Ahaha, oh that's a riot. Everyone in class wanted your autograph and you ended up with a sprained wrist, that's priceless," she said, rolling on the ground, getting a glare from the alicorn when Applejack gently kicked her in the stomach before handing him a bag of ice. "If I remember correctly, you and the others wanted my autograph as well for my first copies of all my books, Miss Rainbow Mane," he said, growling only to be ignored despite the blush on each of the girls' faces. Since he published his books, they all got his first editions which they asked to be signed. "Pay her no mind, Sugar Cube. You just wanted to satisfy your fans, ain't no harm in doing," she said as Naruto gratefully accepted it as he sighed in relief. "So sis, how'd I do?" he asked as she grinned before hugging him around his waist. "You were awesome, bro. All the kids wished they had a brother as awesome as you," she said, smiling, making him pat her head softly. "Well, I'm happy to help," he said, ruffling her head, getting a pout when Spike ran in with a scroll. "Eyes. Where's Twilight? I got a scroll from Princess Celestia," he said, running in as he looked around before he got picked up by Naruto's tails after watching the young dragon run around in circles. "Tell Spike she had to do something real quick. What's up?" Naruto asked, bringing a horizontal spike to his face. "Twilight had me send a letter to Princess Celestia earlier while you and Scootaloo were at Family Appreciation Day. She made me send some pictures she had me take of you," he said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. "Wait a second, when did you take pictures of me?" "No better question is you were taking pictures of me," he commented with a twitching eyebrow. "The Twilight wanted to show Princess Celestia what you looked like, so she had me follow you around and get a few pictures so Princess Celestia could see how her son has grown since she first saw you. Don't hurt me, I'm too young and handsome to die," he cried, making Naruto roll his eyes. "Please Spike, if I wanted to kill you, we wouldn't having this conversation now, would we?" "So what else did the scroll say, my modest dragon?" he asked, setting the young dragon down as he pulled it out. "She said that when Family Appreciation Day was over at school, she would send for a chariot to pick us all up. The ponies who came with you as well," he explained, getting a nod from them all when Twilight came out of the basement. "What were you guys talking about?" she said when she saw Naruto glare at her while Spike was making a camera with his hands, making her take a step back when he disappeared and reappeared in front of her. "So you had Spike follow me around and take pictures of me? If it weren't for the fact that you gave the pictures to my mom, then it could be considered being stalkerish or flattering, depends on how you look at it. I say flattering, but that's just me," he said with a grin before flicking her nose, making her eat. While covering it, making the others laugh, although she and the others, for a small fee from Spike, kept multiple copies of the shot of Naruto apple bucking without a shirt with him sweating, which was enhanced showing just him. He charged them and any woman who was interested 20 bits for a regular photo which the girls owned, 40 for a wallpaper and 60 for a set of photos and a wallet-sized one. It was suffice to say that he quickly became every mare within the legal age of 15 and up's wet dream. Twilight, Princess Celestia sent a letter saying she was sending a chariot to come pick us all up, or those who are incapable of flying at least," Spike said, getting a nod when they all heard knock on the door as Twilight answered it. "Yes," she said, opening it to see 2 white stallions wearing gold armor over black clothing. "One," said Twilight Sparkle, "Princess Celestia has asked us to escort you and your company to Canterlot for a meeting. If you'd please have the ones incapable of flight please get on the chariot, we can go." They nodded as when they walked out of the large tree to see a decent-sized chariot large enough to carry those who couldn't fly with ease, as Scootaloo was originally against it but decided to get in the chariot as they all took off. On the way to Canterlot. "So Naruto, how do you feel? I mean, you're just meeting your mom, you nervous?" Rainbow asked as she, Fluttershy, Hinata, Tamari, Satsuki, Twilight and Naruto flew next to the chariot as he nodded slightly. "You want me to be honest? I don't know what to think or say. I've ran the scenario in my head a few times, but doing it in person is a completely different experience. I don't know what to say or what it is I should even do, he said, flying straight ahead, not even looking at her. Why is that, Shadow? I mean, just talk to her like you would any other pony you've talked to, Pinkie Pie said while running on a wheel without problems, while it continued to spin, making him raise an eyebrow before shaking his head. That's just it though. This isn't just some random pony I've met on the street or by pure circumstance, but my flesh and blood mother, some pony I don't even know. I mean, it's not like I can just waltz right up to her and hug her saying, hey mom, long time no see. How have ya been? Me, I'm fine, you know, stopped a mad stallion from using the moon as a giant illusion to control the world with him as ruler, became a proverbial pet and turned into an alicorn demon with enough power to turn the world into space debris, but enough about myself, how have you been since you've left? He ranted, unaware of others listening to him speak. I mean, I know she had no choice but to leave without me, but I don't know, I guess it's just me being paranoid, expecting the worst situation possible, he said, looking down when he got patted on his back by Temari. Naruto, I doubt your mom wouldn't have left you that letter if she didn't want anything to do with you. I'm sure she missed you as much as you did, or possibly more so, she said, making him smile as the others did as well before they landed in Canterlot. Castle Chambers. Well, it seems Shadow is just as nervous as you are, Celestia, Ascura said as they watched them make their way from Ponyville as they were seen walking through the streets of Canterlot. It appears so, Ascura, I just hope things turn out better than I feared, she said, watching them walk through Canterlot, watching as her son was given unsavory looks by the populace of Canterlot due to their clothing before he shot them a glare, making them turn their attention elsewhere, causing him to smirk. I got to admit the photos Spike took don't do him justice, Chrysalis said, with them all agreeing with her as they saw Naruto and company standing outside as they dispelled the magic, letting them watch him as a guard came in. Your Majesties, the group you requested have come as instructed, he said as he bowed to them. Very good, bring them in, Celestia said after taking in a deep breath, trying to calm her pounding heart as she felt it was close to bursting out of her chest. Do you want us to leave so you can talk to him alone? Ascura said before she nodded. She said, I would appreciate it. I apologize, but I'll let you all meet him later, it's just I just want to spend some much needed time with my son is all. They nodded before vanishing with a teleportation spell after they all cheered her on, while her sister gave her a hug as Luna said, don't worry sister, everything will be fine. Watching them walk away, she couldn't help but think, I hope so sister, I sure do hope so. Outside Castle Chambers. Shadow, calm down, if you keep pacing around the hall you might make a groove in the floor, Temari said as the others nodded. Seriously SF, calm down, you're making me dizzy, watching you know, Rainbow Dash groaned watching him walk around the room for the past 5 minutes, 5 agonizingly slow minutes. She's right big bro, just relax, pacing around won't make things move any faster, Scootaloo said as she, Applebloom and Sweetie Belle were playing cards. It seemed that just like his large chakra reserves, she also adopted his monstrous luck. He was about to say something when the same guard that picked them up came back out, saying the princess will see you all now. Naruto was about to walk in when he saw the others weren't following him, making him raise an eyebrow before they shoved him inside, making him struggle to keep his balance. You go on ahead, Shadow. We're sure you want to get whatever it is off your chest, Scootaloo can meet her later, Twilight said, getting a nod from the others as they walked out of the castle, making him sigh with a smile before turning back. Are you going in, sir? Princess Celestia is a rather busy mare, the guard said, getting a nod from the alicorn as he walked through the large oak double doors. Back in the castle chambers. Walking inside the large room, Naruto couldn't help but marvel at the beauty and size of it all as his hooves clopped against a marble floor, being the only sound heard. As he looked around, he couldn't help but be impressed by it all. Large columns with different diesels carved into them, tapestry of various styles hung from the ceiling, and the windows were made of stained glass to give an image as the sun shone through them, filling the chamber with color. Along the floor was a long carpet that from the looks of it was made from the finest silk, as he made sure to take in every detail when his focus was drawn to the porcelain white alicorn mare sitting on a throne as she gazed at him, making him swallow hard while his cheeks and hers colored slightly as they watched each other. Stopping at the bottom of the stairs, Celestia got up as she made her way down the long flight of stairs as both their chests felt tight as the two tried to control their blush. Shadow couldn't help but thank God she's beautiful. Celestia was thinking similar thoughts as she looked him up and down, feeling her heartbeat faster as she came to a stop in front of him as the two held eye contact. Slowly closing the distance between the two, he said softly, hey mom, long time no see. The moment those words left his mouth, the dams broke as she reached out for him, bringing him into a tight hug as she shook. I missed you so much, Shadow, she said, tearfully burying her face in his neck while feeling his muscles as she felt herself grow hotter as she felt him hold her tighter. I missed you too mom, so much, he said, holding her tighter while looking down at her as she couldn't help but blush harder from his wide eyes staring at her. Separating, she said as they sat on the stairs after wiping her tears. So Shadow, how have you been? How have you been? His life has been hell before he came here. Celestia, get a grip and ask a question that doesn't make you sound like two ponies who haven't spoken to each other in years. She mentally berated herself as he chuckled. Well, aside from becoming the new Juubi on top of being an alicorn, being turned into a glorified pet, and having the people I once considered friend and family to turn on me peachy, now that I have a new life here in Equestria with my wives and sister, he said sitting next to her. I can see from the photos my student Twilight sent me. I'm so sorry I didn't bring you with me, son, she said when he draped an arm around her waist, bringing her closer. It's fine, I know if you were able to then you would have brought me with you. But in a way I'm grateful, he said with his arms still around her while she rested her head on his shoulder. How? She asked. I'm grateful because I lived a humble life. Had I been born and lived directly in the castle, then I would have expected everything to be handed to me on a gold platter, as I never had to earn anything or learn the difficulties and hardships that come with life. I learned that the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, but full of hardships that will push you to your absolute breaking point. Building true bonds through trial and error, he said with a smile, making her smile as well. So in a way I'm grateful for all of this, but I'm even happier here than I've ever been in my previous world, especially with my new friends, he said, making her to smile. Shadow, you can't begin to imagine how long I've dreamed of spending time with you like this. I would always watch those doors thinking you would one day walk through them to me, she said. Because of Sarutobi, Minato and Jiraiya, I never got the chance to be a mother to you, the one thing I wanted more than anything, so I could be a part of your life, and they took that away, making me miss so much of your life, she said with her head down, as a dark aura spread around her. Your first words, your first steps, teaching you how to use magic and to fly. So much I'll never get back because of them, she said as her mane and tail started to resemble a flame, as her coat started to darken before she took a breath while maintaining control. Seems I'm not the only alicorn with a dark side, he thought as her coat was just starting to redden to the point it was deep crimson like a ruby, while her sclera was slowly turning from white into a light lavender color, with royal purple eyes with slits, as her mane and tail started to turn into flames. She thought in her darkened state as she formed a fanged grin as she buried her face in his neck. Oh my handsome little boy. You've become so strong of heart and will. I guess one good thing Minato had to give was you, my son. If I can't be a mother to you, then maybe I could be a mother to our children. In her darkened state she said, son, how about I show you around? Although I'd like to meet my newest daughter, I would like it if you stayed around Canterlot so I can get to know my son. He nodded as he got up while lending her his hand to help her up, making her say my such a gentlecold. He chuckled saying, even though I lived as an orphan I trained in etiquette, so in case I was hired for missions to guard the high class, I could blend in with them and act as a high class. Although before I was even hired for those missions the Hokage would tell them I wasn't the best fit for them as a clanless orphan of no social standing, so I wasn't really given many of those types of missions, unless I went with someone. She growled before smiling saying, well, that's their loss. Come, let me show you around. He nodded following her lead. But the main six and the CMC. Say Scootaloo, why didn't you stay with Shadow to meet his mom? Satsuki asked, getting a shake of the head. I can meet her later, but Big Bro was really nervous meeting her, so I wanted to give him his space to spend quality time with her, she said with her arms behind her head. That's mighty nice of ya, Scoots, Applebloom said with getting a shrug from the girl. Hey, I'm a giver, give, that's all I do, she said, getting a laugh from her two friends, making her pout before huffing. The haha, laugh it up you two, she growled before she was put in a headlock by Rainbow Dash. Aw, calm down, Scoots, they're just poking the bear is all. Now I don't know about you all, but I'm starving. Anyone know where the closest food place is? She asked. Thinking it over, Twilight said, yeah, actually there is this nice little restaurant just a block over. Princess Celestia would bring me with her there for lunch while she trained me. Well, let's get a move on. I'm sure Naruto is doing just fine with Celestia. The two of them are far too alike to not get along. Although Naruto is going to be spending time with his mom, so we might not see him for a few days, Tsunade said, remembering her time with Celestia or more so Kushina, and knew everything would be okay as they moved along. Well, Scootaloo want to head back to Ponyville and we can pick him up later. Twilight asked, getting a nod, intending to leave a message as they left. Castle courtyard. So let me get this straight, while pretending to be some half-witted moron you wore a neon orange and sky blue jumpsuit and defaced the Hokage monument in broad daylight. Celestia said, sitting on the grass with her son as he told her of his more hilarious moments, getting a nod. Yup, didn't get caught doing it until I lead a ninja wide goose chase. 27 Anbu, 15 Chunin, and 20 Jounin chased me around the village. In the end only one person could catch me, and that was someone I saw as a big brother before he became like everyone else and thought of themselves as superior to me, he said, lying on the grass feeling her place her hand on his lap. The two could feel a growing attraction to each other for various reasons. For Naruto, he couldn't view her as his mother, but still wanted her to be a part of his life, no matter what means they had to take to achieve it. For Celestia or Solar Flare as she told him that form was called, she had the same reasons. She couldn't really fulfill the role as a mother to him since he was a grown stallion now. But the second reason was because she had a secret turn-on for strong men. That was partially why she was with Minato in the first place, because he was strong. But this was a deeper connection she wanted to fulfill by any means, and she had to admit he's filled out nicely, very nicely, and was rather appealing to the eyes. "So son," she started when he turned to her. "There's no need to be so formal, you know," he said, making her chuckle. "Alright, Shadow. It seems Twilight and her friends have taken quite an interest in you, just as much as your friends do," she said, making him smile. "Yeah, they're all very cute. Twilight and the others told me they wanted to pursue a relationship with me after learning about the laws in my old world. I told them I was fine with it so long as they were fine with it," he said as she nodded before lying on her side with him. "Would it be possible for me to be part of that life? To have what they do with you?" she said, making him turn his attention from the sky to her as they held eye contact. "Even if I have to bear your children, I just want to have a connection with you, and if I have to share you with my student and her friends, your lady friends, and even more if possible, then I will," she said, honestly, making him smile. "I would love to have you in my life no matter what the end result is, either as friends or lovers, so long as everyone's happy in the end," he said, placing a clawed hand on her which she leant into with a serene expression on her face as she sighed. Opening her eyes, she subtly pushed her mana outward to see if anyone was around. To see nobody was around, she let her bring herself closer to her son as the two kissed softly before getting rougher as she straddled his waist, deepening the kiss before separating. Looking at his slightly dazed expression, she let out a cute giggle that didn't match her stern expression before it softened. She said, smiling softly, "What do you say to staying in the castle for a while? I want to spend more time with you." Bringing his hand up, rubbing her cheek, he said after laying another soft kiss on her soft lips, "Sure, I wanted to spend more time with you as well." She nodded with a grin, saying excellent. Her stomach rumbled, causing her face to darken while he laughed, making her pout as she said, "Dinner is almost ready, how about we get something to eat, it's getting late after all." He nodded as he slid from underneath her while helping her up as they made their way back to the castle. Castle dining hall. Walking into the dining hall, Naruto couldn't help but marvel at the size of the room, nearly equaling the size of the castle chambers if not dwarfing it. Within the dining hall was a long table with a crisp white pressed cloth that stretched the entire length of the table with rows of silverware and fine plates and glasses. At the table were the others. As she led him to the dining table, she said, "Girls, I would like you all to meet Shadowfire, my son." He gave a kind smile before bowing slightly. "It's a pleasure to meet you all, Princess Luna, Queen Chrysalis, Queen Ascura, Lady Eris." "Why am I so formal, Celestia? But we were right, he's even more good looking than the photo the young dragon had sent," Ascura said as they watched him bow before a mare came in wearing a black skirt that reached her knees with black leggings, as well as a white blouse under a black jacket with a red bow ribbon around her neck. "Princess Celestia, it would seem the chefs have fallen ill, and there is nobody on hand to cook," she said fearfully as she was being looked upon with a bored expression by Solar Flare before a light bulb formed above her head when she cast a sly grin towards her son, who slowly inched away near the far end of the table. But the purr causing the girls to grin while he shivered slightly as they all came together, saying in perfect stereo, "Shadow, would you be so kind as to cook for us?" It was already hard enough to say no when they squeezed together, accidentally pushing their breasts against him as they backed him into a wall, but they started quivering, their lips they added tearful doe-sized eyes. He said mentally, "Stand strong, Naruto, you can fight your girls off when they do this, there is no way they can beat you." "Wait, no, they're whimpering, that's bull." The more they did it, the more they pushed themselves against him till their faces were up close to his own when tears started to leak, making him sigh with his head down. Alright, I'll cook." "Just stop with the tears, I hate seeing mares cry," he said, causing them each to give him a kiss on the cheek as he walked into the kitchen after adjusting his clothes when a maid came in as he shut his warmer with an apron over his chest and tied his hair into a ponytail with a cloth coming over his head. "Any suggestions, ladies? I mean, I'm no culinary expert, but I like to think I'm a pretty good cook," he said when a gleam formed in Solar Flare's eye, reminding him of himself when ramen comes to mind. "Ramen?" she called, making the others get the same gleam, making him put his face in his hand, knowing she corrupted them when they all began naming different flavors. He chuckled, "Okay, so a couple of everything." They nodded with a bit of drool, making him laugh as the girls blushed hearing his laugh echo through the dining hall before he vanished behind the kitchen doors. "So Celestia, or should I say Solar Flare, why the change in form?" Luna asked as she retold her first day with her son, making them laugh at some of his hilarious moments while growling at the audacity of his old world to do such to him. "So anyone knows what's with the butterfly flapping around?" Eris asked as she pointed out the midnight black butterfly fluttering around with blue dust falling from its wings. They all shrugged when they pointed out that it crept through an open crack through the kitchen door. "In the kitchen?" Let's see what this kitchen has to use. Oh, those sneaky mares, they had noodles freshly made already. Haha, good one, girls managed to get one over on me. Not many can say they've done that successfully, he thought, seeing the large amounts of ingredients for the various flavors of ramen with a twitching eyebrow before he sighed, creating several clones to get started with each working on a different flavor. Focusing on the broth for each as he tasted them to see what was missing, he saw sparkling blue dust fall in front of him as he looked up to see a black butterfly, making him think a butterfly. No, a hell butterfly must be a message from Scootaloo. Letting it land on an extended finger, he felt a message play in his mind. Hey big bro. It's Scootaloo. Me and the others decided to head back to Ponyville so you and mom can spend time together. We'll be back in a week, which is when the train will be back up and running, so see ya then. And don't worry, I'll be at Aju's farm and training with the others to master the Chunin level curriculum, or at least get a decent hoof forward at least. See you later bro, and tell mom I'm looking forward to meeting her. He had to chuckle at the excitement in her voice, but he understood she grew up without a mom for nearly her entire life, so to have one in her life, even if it wasn't biological, was a welcoming approach. He felt a tap on his shoulder as he shooed away the butterfly after he gave his message, as he turned to see his clones point to several large mountains of bowls with and chopsticks as he nodded, letting them dispel. Smelling the ramen made his stomach roar from the scent assaulting his senses as he had them all help him balance the large quantities of noodles before he decided to eat them all himself, knowing he very well could rather easily. Dining hall. And that's what I intend to do to finish this day, Solar Flare said with a grin as the others mimicked her expression as she told them how she intended to finish this admittedly wonderful day before the girls hummed in content, smelling the various flavors flow through the air. Dinner's ready girls, take your pick, he said as they all lifted several bowls from each as he sat between Luna and Ascura. So Shadow, what did you do during your time in your old world? Eris asked with a raised eyebrow as she saw him and Solar Flare neck and neck with 20 bowls even before he finished his 21st. I was an assassin, or more so a ninja. Before I was out of the academy I was already more powerful than anyone alive by their standards since I used a spell to create a training ground outside anyone's reach. Their time and space acted outside the natural order, so time moved faster there, allowing me to master everything. I spent practically a millennia mastering the spells mom left, my bloodlines, and the different arts that my old world used, and even went as far as to create my own techniques that used the spiritual aspect of chakra mana, he said. Solar Flare told us that you pretended to be a moron, right? How did you do that? Chrysalis asked as they watched him walk around the table till he was in front of them before creating a clone, before they were both enveloped in a burst of light when it revealed, showing both Narutos. I pretended to have no skill and purposely failed the academy 3 years in a row before I learned a forbidden jutsu called the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. With that I was permitted to graduate while I lead everyone to believe I was a loudmouth who was only good for creating clones, the smaller Naruto said, before pointing to the older Naruto who spoke. Then 3.5 years later, after I went on a training trip with my godfather to help me grow stronger against a criminal organization that were after the tailed beast. This was an attempt to force loyalty into me. I faced several enemies that could have killed everyone if it weren't for me. I stopped an invasion run by the Akatsuki's false leader Pain and won the Fourth Great War, he said, before the two slid together as he turned into his true form when he was in the elemental nations after the war, causing them to blush. After I defeated the 10 tails I attempted to seal it inside myself, much like the Sage of Six Paths had, but due to me being an immortal of immense power, I ended up absorbing it, instead making myself the new Juubi no Okami. That was when everyone who was once my ally treated me as if I were some overgrown pet with them as my owners, he said before he changed back before his sweat dropped, seeing they had eaten all the ramen before they yawned as the maids took the large bowls to the kitchen. Well everyone, it's time to get some sleep, see you all in the morning, Ascura said as she and the others gave him a peck on the cheek before they left, each swaying their hips as they walked past saying goodnight. Come on Shadow, it's getting late, your room is next to mine, Solar Flare said, grabbing his hand, guiding him all the while her heart rate sped up. Naruto's bedchamber. After Solar Flare had wished him a good night, he went to his bed, lying back under the soft silk sheets and the firm comfortable mattress as he stretched, laying back in his sweetpants with his hands behind his head, thinking of the day he spent with the girls. Getting up from the bed, he walked out to the terrace to look at the night sky, ignoring the cool night air with his mane flow free in the wind, unaware of someone entering his room until a voice next to him alerted him couldn't sleep. Turning his head, he saw Solar Flare wearing a loose shirt with a bare alabaster shoulder being visible and black lace panties as he had to fight down a blush as he saw her mane solidified, reminding him of her human self. Kushina, he nodded. Yeah. Placing a hand on his shoulder, she said, you can talk to me, you know. You do know that, right? He nodded before he sighed, it's just all my life I've dreamed of meeting you and would wonder if there were things you did that I like to do sometimes. If you like to look at the stars when you couldn't sleep, or if you had any hobbies. She wrapped her arms around his, meshing herself against him, listening. I keep expecting this to have been just one big dream, that one that I just don't want to wake up from. Cupping his face in her hands, she brushed his whiskers with her thumbs as he leaned into her touch, purring slightly, making her smile, remembering him doing this when he was born. Pulling him to the bed, the two sat down in the bed with her lying on him as she said, kissing him for the third time today, "This is no dream. And I'll show you now." The clone dispelled as he used his magic to pull the sheets over the two of them, while he kept his arms wrapped around her waist as they kissed one last time. She said tiredly, "My god, that was fantastic. I know the girls and my student are certainly going to enjoy this as much as I did." Wide-eyed, he was about to ask how when she said, wrapping her arms around his waist with her face in the crook of his neck shadow, "I know that you could make me fall for you so quickly. I had little doubt you had the same effect on Twilight and her friends. I also know you will treat us all equally and with love." Sitting up, she gave him a glare as her red hair turned to flames again as she said, "You will love us equally, right?" He nodded, making her flames die down as she kissed softly before biting him on the collar like he had as she said, "Good, now, let's go to sleep, and I would love a collar." He couldn't help but raise an eyebrow before shrugging as the two fell asleep in each other's arms. Content. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.